Okay, so that was a fun little test of the be right back button. But anyway, back to full screen here. So, kind of figuring out all this stuff as we go along. It does behave differently when you're actually there doing the live stream as opposed to doing a little test recording beforehand, because you can do both. But at any rate, let's get this started. So, get over to React. It'll work. There we go. Okay, I've been building this out. Unfortunately, it seems to think it's got to make this thing way wider. I was like trying to make it fit so that I didn't have it, overlapping with me. But I guess that's just the way it's got to work. Oh, you know what? It's probably because I scooted my windows over. Yeah, that's probably it. We narrow this down. Oh, probably gonna do it. Okay. Go. Wow, just like that. Okay. See, I'm learning too. So, I hope this actually works. Oh, check it out. First time on Twitch. Thank you for actually leaving a chat there. That's very helpful. And I got Alejandro. That's nice. So thank you. And yeah, okay, getting lively. Now I just need to figure out how to make these not so clunky. Yeah, the chat box, I'm gonna stretch that out a little bit because that just seems totally disoriented. Reset transform. Sorry, that's why I'm doing this stuff on the spot. It's great fun. But if I put that over there, yeah. There we go, baby. Only question is, that fit in this space? Okay. This way, it's not going to be a problem, but kind of has a weird cutoff there. So anyway, I'm learning this stuff on the fly. I'm just glad you're here. So yeah, feel free to throw out some suggestions and stuff. Otherwise, I'm going to start going through, and I think it'd be kind of fun, since the people who are probably going to be jumping in here already know me from my day job. Might as well go and look at some stuff that's relevant to that. Maybe a little detailing stuff, maybe a little TRC stuff, maybe even some All Day Anthony stuff. We can riff on him since he's not here to defend himself, but, it could be fun to watch his videos where he doesn't have a chance to deny that they exist. That could be kind of fun. But, yeah. So far, no DMCA strikes either. So, for those of you who aren't familiar, when you're streaming, oftentimes you'll get copyright strikes for using virtually any music, and I mean like anything. The systems now are so crazy, so just shoot first, ask questions later, that it becomes kind of a pain in the ass where you have to figure out, okay, can I play anything that's not gonna trip the system? But YouTube is more particular about that. From what I've heard, Twitch is less aggressive with that stuff, although I also hear that's kind of changing, so I can only hope that it remains this way. This, you can only trust these titles so much, right? But anyway, let's see, what do we got here? Let's start things off. Before I get into any videos, I'm going to do what we all do around here, which is, peek around, look for future project cars. I did notice that there were some funny looking things here in town. Never know what you're going to have locally, but let's see. Oh, I don't have a cursor view. That's weird. It's actually not showing my cursor on the screen. Trying to show it. We'll lock that up there. All right. On the browser view, that covered there. All right. Well, we have a little bit of everything. We've got Scion IQ. When was the last time you thought about one of those? For me, it was probably when Doug DeMuro recently released a video about the Aston Martin Signet. And if you're not familiar with that, it was basically a Scion IQ, Toyota IQ with the guts rearranged, changed out. They tried to take a car that was like the most bargain basement economy car and turn it into something that kind of passed for luxury. Now, they couldn't change any of the drivetrain components, so it remained entirely the same, but they did manage to change a lot of the interior. Actually, that could be kind of a fun one to watch later. Yeah, so these things are just... they're adorable, but they are ugly. This one looks like the owner wanted to have some fun with it, though. I mean, they painted the wheels black, or they got black wheels for it, and it's clearly in a wrap. Some kind of wrap. Let's see here. Oh, getting a message from somebody. Let me take a look at that. Get back here for a second. Oh, somebody who wants to hop in the chat here, but unfortunately can't, because it's got to verify their phone and all this stuff, and since they're international, they're not sure if it'll charge them or anything. Honestly, I'm not sure what that would do either. I don't think it should do anything more than like maybe send you one text for verification that your phone is real. If you have unlimited messaging, that's one thing, but if you have any kind of messaging that has a charge per text and stuff, I don't think it's gonna hit you with like an international thing. It's just gonna be localized, because with the computers connecting everything together now, it's probably gonna be specific to you. So for wherever you are out there that's trying to get in on the fun, I'm glad you're watching, and if you do one verification, that shouldn't cost you anything, but if it does, it couldn't be more than like, I don't know, a few pence maybe. But yeah, go ahead and look into that and let me know if you see anything else. But you could also tell it to maybe verify via email. That's also an option. Oh yeah, and Alejandro sent me a message here saying if you're on Wi-Fi, it shouldn't be a problem. So if you get a message and you're on Wi-Fi, that's true. At least as far as like iPhones are concerned, they can kind of differentiate between the whole iMessage thing versus text. So you might actually look at doing that. So I would go ahead and do it, but then again, I don't want to put you in any kind of awkward situation where you get a charge for something like that. It'd be kind of dumb, and I don't blame you for not wanting to do it, but it seems like most people are able to do it, and I have, you know, international folks in here, so I'd really appreciate if you did it. But once again, no pressure or anything. Like, if it's not something that you're comfortable doing, that's totally okay. Yeah, so there we go. He has to go out, verify, and go back in. Oh, okay. Yeah, so double check that out. But basically, Alejandro, it's Graham trying to get a hold there. So if you want to shoot Graham a message, maybe you can help him out. All right, that's enough of me messing around on my phone. Let's get back to this guy. All right. Yeah, you're not kidding. The interior was crazy on these things. It was something else. Like, on the actual IQs, you've got these things where they've got these seats, these hilarious little seats. They come right up to the barrier. You can fold them down, and this is a wide angle shot, so it makes it look way bigger than it is. I mean, it already looks small, but it's smaller than it looks. For sure. They're using a wide angle lens and all this stuff, so it's kind of funny to see, but oof, not good. But you know what? For a little city car, I can't blame you. You just want something that's easy to park virtually anywhere. This versus a smart car, I would actually buy one of these over a smart car, if only because I would think it would be more reliable than a smart car. But that may be a little bit of a Japanese versus European bias there showing when it comes to build quality. I mean, a smart car, when you describe it on paper, sounds kind of cool. Rear engine, 3-cylinder, that whole thing, rear wheel drive. It's cool, but in actuality, the smart cars are pretty underwhelming. Unless you're talking about a smart roadster. I would definitely like to get a go on one of those someday. Yoshi popping in saying these are an absolute blast to drive with a manual transmission. You know, I would be really interested in driving one of these with manual. I mean, you have like a wheelbase that is what, 5-6 feet. It's hilariously short. I mean, okay, maybe it's not 5 or 6 feet. Maybe it's a little longer than that, but not by much. I mean, really. I mean, this is shorter than a normal small car by a good amount. But yeah, no, that's right, Mandarin Racing. It is a reliable version of a smart car. Yeah. So, okay, I see Luke popping in, asking where the massage chair is. It's actually in the other room out behind me here. So this is my office. This is where the awesome setup for all my streaming stuff will happen. But if I find a way to integrate my Xbox Series X out there and I can actually do some, like, you know, play some Forza or something, throw it up on the screen, that would be kind of cool. If I can figure out a way to tie those two together. I don't want to have to like move the system over here and like try and play it into the that could just get complicated, but it might be fun. Yeah, the SMG in the smart car is somewhat clunky. Yeah, no, I have driven one of those and it's not great. I mean, sequentials are cool in theory. If you're in like a rally car or something, dope. But if you're driving something that's meant to be like a little city car, less dope. Yeah, Hangbang Studio. Cool, thanks. Yeah, so one thing I want to do is I want to like detach this chat box and move it over to the other side of my screen. Let me see if I can do that. One sec. Over. This over. Okay. Now you're more in the middle of my screen. Now I can see the chat like actually appearing straight in front of me, which is nice. So we'll do that. I'm going to shrink this window a little bit more. A little bit. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I'm like fine tuning this stuff because I've never done this before. So kind of learning on the fly, but hey, I'm really glad to have, you know, a handful of you guys in here. This is fun. Yes, that's right. Atherley 24. Yes, rebadged as Aston Martin Signets to be specific. And actually, it's funny. Doug DeMiro just recently had a video about that. Up over here. Yeah, there we go. We've got a good number of ones. Does he just have his uploads listed anywhere? No, he's got it all. Despite appearances and how like low production value all his stuff seems, he's very, very attuned to how he runs his channel. It's very interesting. And based on my tube buddy channelytics, yeah, he's not doing so bad. 16.6 million views over the course of 11 videos in the last 30 days. Yeah, you're doing fine, Doug. Got to meet him one time in person. He was really nice, actually. Really liked the guy. So click over in the videos tab here. And not that, yeah, wow. It's really been that fast, right? He does have a pretty regular release schedule. Yeah, so the Aston Martin Signet. I'm going to turn down. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to go ahead and keep my background audio because I'm liking that so far. But yeah, let's pop that up there. Okay, so obviously I've watched this video before, but it was pretty funny looking at this anyway. So yeah, no, Doug DeMiro recently did the Aston Martin Signet on his channel, which is basically just it's almost a mischaracterization to call it a spruced up IQ because it's barely that exterior wise. They did put like this little vent on there to kind of crib what they were doing with their other Aston Martins at the time, but yeah, no, it's a little crazy. And they only made like a very, very small handful of them. I'm trying to remember how many they. It wasn't a lot. They were like asking 40,000 for them, which is a lot more than what the standard like Scion or Toyota IQ went for. But the biggest difference you'll find on the Signets, other than just incredible rarity, because I mean, think about the kind of person who bought this. It was a compliance car. Like, if you're not familiar with the concept of a compliance car, it was basically done at a time where Aston Martin was cranking out, a whole bunch of, naturally aspirated V12s, V8s, cars that, emitted a decent amount of, carbon emissions, all that stuff. And they needed something fuel economy wise, all that could kind of offset what they were doing. And what they found was they had to dig around and find some car available out there that they could, recombine into something that could pass as an Aston Martin, and actually have it be sold so that they could say, hey, out of our whole lineup, our emissions average to this. And that's because we have an incredibly efficient car mixed in with all of our far less efficient cars. That's like the whole point of that kind of thing. But some companies do it better than others. Nowadays, everybody's just turning to EVs, so that's no emissions. Now, that's a fun debate to have too, is basically the people who absolutely hate EVs because insert XYZ reason here. There's plenty of reasons why people may not like them. I happen to like EVs, but at the same time, I love my internal combustion cars, and I'm not about to let those things go either. It's definitely a difficult thing, letting go of sound, because sound is such a big part of the experience with cars if you're into them as anything more than appliances. If all you care about with a car is going A to B, then fine. Yeah, like little appliance car is going to do the trick just fine. Then you're happy with insert, Toyota, Honda, whatever here. But if you're into cars like in a more passionate way, and you're actually interested in steering feel and, throttle response and all that kind of stuff, yeah, you want to have like a little bit of dynamism. You want something that changes with you as you go. In internal combustion, there's a lot more changing. EV, it's just kind of like an on-off switch. When you're pressing the throttle, you can't even call it the gas because obviously it's not gas. But yeah, no, that's just kind of an interesting debate everybody seems to have, and everybody's freaking out because Dodge, of all people, are finding that, they're going to have to turn away from just Hellcating everything and actually make some EVs now. So that's going to be an interesting turn. But with their e-muscle concept, I'm really curious to see how that turns out. If it just ends up being like, I don't know, if the front end makes it look like it's going to be like a 68 Charger kind of thing. Not Challenger, but Charger kind of thing, where it's more squared off, but they're really hiding the side profile. I haven't seen any pictures of it showing beyond just that front end with the kind of outline they've got. Let me see if I can pull it up here. They revealed it yet? Oh, wait a second. Have they? These are a bunch of renders. Okay. See, no, these are all a bunch of renders just based on Challengers. When they were originally putting the picture out there, yeah, they're showing like an all-wheel drive burnout. An all-wheel drive burnout and a relatively narrow front box there. I mean, that is kind of Challenger-esque, but I was thinking more Charger because I thought the front grille would actually be larger and have like hideaway headlights or something, although I don't know if regulations even allow you to do that kind of stuff anymore. Would be kind of rad. Let's see here. We've got... I put an eBay turbo on the Scion. That would actually be pretty fun. You've got the Scion TC, right, Luke? And I think on that motor, if I'm not mistaken, there were definitely some options. There was like a factory supercharger or something available for that. Tesla swap Plymouth satellite someone has built. Oh yeah. What was the deal with that one? Was it like Rich Rebuilds or something? I think it was, maybe. Oh yeah. Yeah, okay, it was Rich Rebuilds. I don't watch his channel. I've just seen the channel name pop up from time to time, but yeah, no, that is, I always thought those were cool looking cars, just from the general shape and stuff. They're kind of creeping into that mid-70s malaise shape, but they weren't quite there yet. The front ends are the cool part. Really like that. But, yeah. And it's still the Signet over here. All right. So I'm sure you're all bored to death of the Signet at this point, but that's okay. I was just curious looking around on Craigslist. Hey, local listing, something fun. What else do we have here? We've got, ooh, okay, you know what? This Blazer is actually really clean looking. I'll balloon this up. There we go. Nice. It's pretty clean. I'm not sure about those wheels personally. It's not really my taste. It looks a little too, yeah. First of all, the wheels somehow look too modern and yet horribly dated in the wrong way to match that truck. I just feel like you need to have like some, yeah, that's just not gonna do it, man. Wheels don't look right. The rest of the truck looks great. I remember being a kid riding the back of one of these. Went to a place up in Sequim, Washington called the Olympic Game Farm, and we were riding around in it. It was actually a GMC Jimmy, so it wasn't a Blazer, but it was still, I mean, it was virtually identical inside. And the windows were powered, and I was feeding like a zebra. I think it was a zebra or a giraffe was coming up to the car, stuck my hand out the window, and the driver started to roll up the window, not realizing my hand was out feeding the animals. And as a kid, I got my arm, my not quite wrist, like a little further back, like forearm, just caught in the window as I was going up, and I screamed. Like, that was bad. And I don't think there were any kind of sensors or anything in Windows back then to stop them from going and just guillotining your freaking arm. So that's cool. But yeah, that's my memory of being in a like a K5 Blazer style GMC Jimmy back in the day. That was fun. Yeah, if that's the first thing you recall when you think about those, I suppose there's worse memories, but it wasn't fun. I'll put it that way. What else do we got here? Okay, that's kind of fun. You know, it's weird. I was trying to figure out why it's not showing my cursor. It'll show the things I highlight, but it's not showing my cursor on screen for whatever reason. So you'll just have to imagine my cursor is highlighting these things, but whatever the case. Rich didn't build that car, but he did do a video review on it. Oh, okay. Thanks, Yoshi. I wasn't sure about that. That's interesting. Now, Luke, as far as your Scion is concerned, yeah, I mean, what'd you pick that up for again? Remind me, what did you pay for that thing? Because depending on what you paid for it, that'll determine the approach you should probably take when it comes to modifying it. Because if you only pay pocket change for it, I mean, relatively speaking, in this car market, then you should probably consider, oh, $800 and it runs? $800 and you got a running Scion TC. Really? What was wrong with it? Now I'm curious. Like, whoa, for that price, there's got to be a few, electrical gremlins or didn't pass emissions or O2 sensor crap. Like, what was wrong with it? Anyway, while you answer that, I'm gonna keep looking around here because there's some fun stuff. Little Triumph Spitfire. One for $5,000. Oh my god, that bumper though. Holy. That is one of those hideous 5 mile per hour regulation bumpers from the 70s and 80s. Those things are atrocious. Luke, you did oil and trans fluid and you took it on a 5-hour trip. Did you have any issues on that trip? Because that's impressive. The manifold cat. Okay. So it's just a cat that's like a little further up the line, so it's on the manifold or something, and that's the issue. Probably something the previous owner just had no interest in working on. Yeah, Hatherley, I have a Jaguar XKR, so I am a fan of British cars. But my God, if I bought this, the very first thing I would do is strip those stupid bumpers off. Put on some chrome ones or something, or even, you know, you could go like resto mod style, maybe go bumperless on there and just like shave down the shape so it doesn't look like there was a bumper there. It'd just be a little nicer. Oh, not a lot of pictures on it, but yeah. Man, those bumpers need some solution finish. That's for sure. Look, just gonna hollow it and put a spark plug defouler on it. Yeah, that's an option too. Straight pipe, yo. I don't know what your emissions laws are like in Pennsylvania, but if you can get away doing that kind of stuff, more power to you. That's fun. Let's see what else we got here. Hey, you're Graham on there. Okay, I wasn't sure because I just saw the Hatherley and I was like, I don't associate that with Graham, but if that's Graham, awesome. Okay, I'm glad you got in here. That's great. Well, you know, this is not meant to be any kind of like high pressure situation. I've only got like 3 people in here, but it's okay. We're hanging out. It's just something to kind of play in the background and occasionally type in a little something in the chat. Let me know what's up. But yeah, I just kind of felt like looking at some YouTube videos of car stuff and browsing through to see what was for sale on Craigslist locally here. Oh, okay. Oh my God. $27,000. How many miles are... Oh, okay. That's why. That's why. Okay. That makes more sense. Yeah, I was really concerned for a second. I was like, wow, those didn't depreciate as much as I thought they did, because I, at my old house, had a neighbor who had a blue one of these, the LS1 powered one, so the earlier one that only had the single exit exhaust. This one's got the dual exhaust, so I think it's got the LS2 in it. But yeah, so these ones were about 400 horsepower, whereas the LS1 ones were like 350, give or take. But yeah, it was only a difference of like a year or two until they swapped in the newer LS into it and bumped up the power. But the way you could tell them apart stock was because when they initially released it, it was just straight up a Holden Monaro, and they had a single exit exhaust. Despite it sounding good and all that, it just didn't really look the part. And you didn't have the scoops on the hood either. If I'm remembering correctly, there weren't any hood scoops on the original release ones, which I think were like 04. But then in 05, they bumped it up. They gave it dual exit exhaust. They gave it the stronger motor. I think it was an LS2. And yeah, like 400 ponies. And yeah, it just kind of had this basic diffuser in the back, said GTO. But I mean, it was straight up Holden Monaro all the way through. Okay, let's see. What's Luke saying down here? Test pipes cost like $500. I'm living the cheap life. Yeah, no, if you don't mind smelling gas all day, I suppose that's an option, a way to go. I'm pretty sure I have some kind of exhaust leak going on my van, the Toyota Town-Ace, my right-hand drive JDM van, because unfortunately for my rear passengers, if they crack the window open and we're like sitting at a stoplight or something, it just smells like gasoline. In a hot day, it's not a super comforting thing, but yeah. Okay, cool. There's Yoshi. 04 GTOs have some weird quirks compared to the 05 and 06 cars, like no lock button on the interior, and the seat motor was very slow. Are you sure it just wasn't a particular one you were in, but they were like all slower than the 05, 06? That's kind of interesting. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I care about and no one else does, so I appreciate, you know, when we can nerd out over stuff like that. That's kind of fun. That's like the whole point of why I want to do streaming like this. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, yeah, Graham. Monaros are rebadged Vauxhalls, Opals here. Yeah. I mean, that was GM doing what GM does best, rebadging everything and just kind of throwing it around the world. On the other hand, I would say that's one of the better examples of GM rebadging something, because a lot of the time when they rebadge stuff, it was garbage. It was fun garbage, but it was garbage. In the case of the Holden Monaro, that was actually a good car. It was a good platform. And a lot of people use them for drag racing, stuff like that. I mean, it's a solid car, very comfortable, even at speed. Yeah, I mean, is it the most exciting thing to look at? Yeah, absolutely not. But it definitely held its own when it came to the actual performance figures. So there's a lot to like there. But yeah, no, to the uninitiated, people looking at that thing would just think, oh, nice Cavalier. All right, what are you saying now, Luke? Car needs love, clear coat failure. Chunky took off the spoiler and just siliconed the holes, butchered the paint pretty good. Oh, dude. Oh, Yoshi, nope, all of them. One of my friends is a diehard GTO nerd, and he's constantly making fun of them. He has a 427 swapped 06 GTO. Wow, okay. So he threw in the 7-liter? Was it, which 7-liter did he put in it? Was it a crate motor, or which one was it? Yeah, Luke, go ahead and do a rattled can job on the Scion, because worst case scenario, it's like I had with my Miata. There's a certain point where it just can't get any worse. So all you can do is, you know, show it some love, even if it's not the best rattle can job. it'll protect it from rust. And I know where you are up in Pennsylvania, that's a big deal. That's something that you need to look out for. Whereas over here in Idaho, rust is a rare thing. I mean, you're not finding that on newer cars really at all, but I know up in the Northeast and through the Midwest and stuff, I mean, it's always a gamble buying a car from there, even if it's only a few years old, because, man, that stuff just eats it up like cancer. Let's see, we've also got, oh, yeah, Graham, it was also available as a U. Yeah, it was known as the Maloo, right? M-A-L-O-O, Maloo. Yeah, I always wish they brought, you know, the Maloo over as a, you know, ute in the form of the Pontiac G8, because, man, the G8 was a great car. And, like, we got the Chevy SS afterwards, which was essentially just another, like, Commodore rebadge job. But the G8, something about it, just the lines were crisp. I really like the look of those. And I think a lot of people who probably sold them for cheap not long after they bought them and Pontiac bit the dust, they actually kind of regretted it, because those things have gone up in value, and it's hard to find a GXP or anything for any kind of remotely decent value. You're paying a lot for them. It's kind of the same reason why I've always been frustrated that I never got a chance to pick up a depreciated Cadillac CTS-V wagon of the second-gen Cadillac CTS-V, because outside of my Jag, that's probably the car that I would have wanted the most for, like, combination of utility and being just a fun muscle car type thing. Because, man, those just did not depreciate. I can't seem to find them anywhere ever, and for the last few years, they haven't gone for like a dime less than 50 or 60 grand for any Cadillac CTS-V wagon, the second gen guys. Which, I mean, I don't have to specify second gen, because that's the only wagon they ever made of the CTS-V, but still. Luke, dude, I'm not gonna lie, it's fun as fuck to have a little normal manual car to daily drive. That's cool. But I still can't believe you sold your truck. Are you talking to me, or are you talking to, Yoshi? Who are you talking to, Luke? Oh, you mean my truck, the big-ass truck, don't you? Yeah, no, for those who aren't aware, I did, for a time period, have a monster truck. I won it in a contest. I mean, there's no other way to put it. The thing was absolutely gargantuan. Actually, I could probably pull up video of it here. Hold on. Let's look for it. Yeah, I ended up winning this contest, and this thing was just absolutely insane. Just crazy. I mean, it was terrifying to be in another car anywhere near it, but yeah, no, definitely something else. Let's see. Yeah, driving footage. It was a good looking truck. Like, I'm not a big fan of the rubber band tires with the huge ass wheels, but I get that it appeals to some other people, and I appreciated the bronze because I do like the bronze. But yeah, that thing was nuts. Okay, it's a Darton sleeved LS2 bored out to 427 cubic. Okay, that makes sense. And Graham, yeah, so the competition was basically, it was a giveaway. Like, it's one of those places where a lot of giveaway companies do this. Like Tuner Cult's an example of that, where, I mean, like them or hate them, they have like these giveaways with a lot of, you know, really attractive JDM cars, that kind of stuff, you know, R33s, R34s, R32s, Supras, FDRX7s, that kind of stuff, and they build them up and they give them away. And usually the whole point is like people will buy t-shirts or lanyards or shorts or whatever, and they'll end up getting entries into a pool, you know, to win these things. And there's a lot of sketchy companies out there who try and like pull that stuff off. It's kind of a shady industry for a lot of different, you know, ones you see out there. I don't know the ins and outs of all of them, but I do know, like, you just see way too many, and a lot of times it just looks a little iffy. But like some of these bigger ones, okay, they're legit. And like the one I won was legit because they actually went through a clearinghouse. They actually had like a fully just divorced, you know, place handle the actual picking and stuff, and then the place that did the selection that had nothing to do with these guys, they paid a clearinghouse to like actually handle it. So then I was contacted by the clearinghouse, and these guys were like a totally separate thing, but the clearinghouse asked for like my tax info and stuff, and it was just like, and I remember Anthony came up to me in my cubicle, and he was just like, wait, I didn't get one of those emails. Holy shit. And yeah, he was freaking out, because then at that point we realized like, oh, they're asking me this info because I actually won this stuff, because I spent I'd made some money off of Dogecoin of all things, and I actually I bought some pants and some shirts from this company, and yeah, I'm actually wearing the shorts right now. But yeah, no, I ended up getting picked because I spent probably about $600 on like pants and all that stuff, but I got picked by the clearinghouse, so it was all legit, so it's really cool. But yeah, it was funny driving around in that truck for a long time around town, because basically you'd be rolling and you'd be at a stoplight, and if you had the window down, somebody would look up and be like, hey, I tried to buy stuff to win that truck, you're the one who won it? And it was like always an uncomfortable scenario. Everybody, for the most part, was cool, but you could always feel the tinge of jealousy, and it was just, it was hard. It was, I know, real hard because you won something, but there are certain like invisible, unspoken elements to winning the lottery or winning a giveaway or any of that kind of stuff, where it just kind of, there's a different kind of stigma attached to it, where people look at you a particular way, and you just always feel like you're looking over your back at like, okay, well, what's going on? But yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, no, I think it was pretty fun. But what else we got here? Okay, so I've been streaming for 50 minutes. I'm glad I got a handful of you guys in here. Thank you for supporting me. That means a lot. And yeah, let's kick it over to... Actually, I want to keep looking here real quick, unless you guys got some other suggestions. It's gotta be something interesting. You know what? First of all, when you're looking through here and all you see are like dealer-owned cars, not as exciting. It's the owner category where you find some of the weirdest stuff. But let's see here. So there's a Triumph. You got this 55 Willys that looks kind of beastly. That looks like something you would drive, Luke. Luke asking, so do I go with the automotive touch-up brand clear, or do I buy proper 2K clear? Used their brand before and had good success. When you say you used their brand before, are you talking about the automotive touch-up, or proper 2K? Which one did you use before that you felt like you got a good use out of? Because I know proper 2K is not cheap, but at the same time, it's definitely going to hold up to UV and regular, road damage, that kind of stuff a lot better. But then again, you also got to be really careful with your overspray. So like, go out in a field, but like put up a pup tent or something. Just don't do that anywhere near things you care about. Ooh, mechanic special Honda Fit for $1,500. Interesting. Edition fair. Well, when the seller is bold enough to actually list it with it's okay. I mean, it's $1,500. All right, what's wrong with this thing? Runs well, but has a broken motor mount that must be replaced. Due to the broken mount, an AC line was ruptured, requiring a replacement, system purge, and refill. Can be driven, but very carefully. Some minor body damage, exterior and interior cleanup needed. Once repaired, it would be a great teen transporter or a gas miserly ride to work. Do I smell a new all-day Anthony vehicle? In fairness, while these things were admittedly pretty gutless, they're a lot of fun to drive. If you've never driven like a first or second gen Fit, they are very fun to drive. Kind of in the same way that like a Ford Fiesta is to drive, but you're not getting anywhere in a hurry. It's just, the handling is better than you expect it to be. I would say though, a controversial point maybe to some, I actually prefer the Fiesta ST over the Focus ST. Heck, I prefer the Fiesta ST over the Focus RS, and I know that's going to ruffle some feathers, but no, it's just a personal opinion thing based on how it felt to drive one. I've ridden in an RS, I haven't driven one, but you get a pretty strong sense of it, and yeah, I found the Fiesta ST to be way more interesting and fun to drive. Yeah, so it's a Honda Jazz where you are, so do you like jazz? Yeah, we got the Fit over here, but it's the Jazz for you guys. The fact that they couldn't post updated pictures. Yeah, automotive touch-up brand paint and clear, repainted a mirror, lasted over 2 years till the mirror got broken again. Okay. I mean, you must have like a lot of stone chips and stuff happening on your roads over there or something, I would guess. Yeah, you could give that a shot. I mean, if you plan on holding on to this vehicle for a long time, it's more of a gamble. If you want to hold on to it for a long time, go with the 2K. But if you're happy with the results you got with the touch-up brand, yeah, go ahead and use that on the sign. I mean, here's the thing. You're actually putting it onto a car that right now really doesn't have much of anything on it. So it's going to be an improvement. I mean, that's the best way to look at it. Is it perfect? No. But is it going to be better than what's there right now? Absolutely. Yeah, no, I totally think you're on the right track with at least doing something, because otherwise it's just going to be frustrating when you keep finding new new problems with it that you could have prevented by throwing some clear on in the first place. So is the clear like totally gone from the vehicle everywhere, like pretty consistently, or is it actually just a few spots? I'm just curious what the overall problem is. I didn't even realize it oversprayed like crazy. Yeah, no, overspray is fun like that. It sneaks up on you. Just when you think you've totally masked everything off and been really careful, you start to find overspray in places you really, really, really wish you hadn't. Ask me how I know. Okay, somebody listening, they're TJ with their dogs in front of it. Hey, they're cute dogs. I don't know if that's going to help sell the Jeep or not, but more power to them for trying, right? If Glenn was here, she would absolutely be voting for the Wrangler TJ, but Jeeps are fun, when I say Jeeps, I mean Wranglers specifically, are fun in concept, but then I hear how many nightmare scenarios there are of just like things going wrong with them, especially electrical, related stuff. Kind of frustrating. Somebody's messaging me. There we go. Turns out it was just a notification from Insta. which, by the way, I've had you all here for close to an hour, but you probably already follow me on, Instagram and all that stuff. But if you don't, here's your, daily reminder, I guess, to follow Gr8DaneFilms over on Insta. And I've also worked on kind of rebranding one of my YouTube channels to be a little bit more for this kind of thing. I'm actually gonna start posting clips from this channel over onto there. I just don't want it to get demonetized for the music. So I thought the vibes are a little better though if I have some music playing in the background. So I hope you guys are enjoying that part of it. But if not, I can just go silent. It may not be as vibey, but whatever. Moving along. Oh god, the Dodge Avenger. These things are I pass a lot of judgment whenever I see one of those. It's just oof. Good. Although it was interesting for such a, small bargain basement trash car, they did actually put like a relatively healthy motor in them, so you could get one. It was trash, but it was fast trash by its own standards. Thanks, Yoshi. I was really hoping the levels would be okay. I just didn't want it to be, too distracting or anything, but I'm glad it's actually working. This is literally my first time trying this, but I was going to start streaming yesterday, and then I realized, oh crap, this like Twitch Studio program is a resource hog. Like, it was chewing up my CPU like crazy, even on this brand new Mac Studio, which is supposed to have an insane processor, and it didn't like it. But then I kick it over to Streamlabs, which is what I'm using here, and it's really good. I mean, it's based off of the OBS software. So if you're not familiar, OBS stands for Open Broadcast System, and it's basically like a good lightweight tool for, broadcasting streams on YouTube and Twitch and all that kind of stuff. But it it got basically a little piggyback from Streamlabs here. They took the base code and did their own rework. I think Logitech owns them or something. But anyway, it seems really decent. So I've been liking the software, but it took a bit of time to learn it. Yeah, thanks, Luke. But yeah, no, OBS is cool though. I just think, I'm one of those people who kind of needs a little bit more of a graphics driven interface to really work well with some kind of system, because, man, anybody who's done video editing, if you've ever heard of a program called Avid, I tried that back in my film school days, and it was that program is brutal. I don't recommend anybody try it, even if they're like really familiar with how nonlinear editing works. Just stick to Final Cut or Premiere or something, unless you're making TV shows. But then again, I mean, I haven't been in the industry for quite a while now, so I don't even know if they still use Avid. Maybe somebody want to speak up if you actually know. But yeah, no, Avid. Oh yeah, I'm not on my normal workday stream. I can say it's a bitch. It's a real bitch. So yeah, I can just be a little more frank here. But what do we got? Know a little bit about streaming. I'm a moderator for a friend that streams here on Twitch. Oh, that's cool. Okay, Yoshi, so you're really familiar with the platform then, I would say, if you're a mod. Stop napping to watch this. I think I'm gonna go back and nap. Oh, am I putting you to sleep? Is that it, Luke? I mean, I can't blame you that much. I'm not doing anything too interesting, but thank you. Hey, it's G Davis. Hello, Dane and friends. I know, it's like a little hangout. We got the crew here. This is nice. I mean, you guys didn't have to come here, but I really appreciate that you actually took a little time out of your day to do it. So keep telling me stories, keep sharing stuff. Like, it's fun. I definitely prefer that over me talking to the void and not getting a response. Let's see here. Oh boy. Yeah. When you see G pop in, you know it's about to get lively. What else do we have here? What's going on with this TJ? Okay. Going a little bit deeper. 30th anniversary edition. You know what's funny? I've seen probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 of these in the last couple of years on like dealer lots and stuff, and they still go for over 20 grand. Like, everybody's charging that much for them. Like, I think it's just because it's the anniversary edition, but once again, these F bodies are, I think they're finally at that point where they're appreciating. I mean, granted, there's a lot of people who like catfish Camaros for drag racing and that kind of stuff, but maybe it's just my personal taste. I actually kind of prefer the pre-catfish, these ones, before the facelift. I just thought the headlights were kind of ugly on these, but I like the general more aero slippery shape of them better. And I know it's definitely not everybody's favorite car by any means, but I like the integrated spoiler, and I like the integrated mirrors into kind of the I guess you could say it's like a bulbous protrusion off of the front wings there that go into the mirror. But I always thought that kind of aero look was cool just for, you know, what it was. Yeah, but Yoshi, that's right. C5Z06 money. C5Z06 has actually got pretty cheap. For whatever reason, they actually dipped below 20s, at least locally here that I've seen a handful of them go for that kind of money, and they're a really good car for the money, but you just have to accept the fact that you're going to have a trash interior. There's no getting around it. They are cheap inside, but you got a good, happy platform that likes mods and responds well to God knows how many different things. I mean, they're really a fun platform to work on. Although, maybe it's just the little boomer in me, but I kind of like having the removable Targa panel. So having a hardtop where you can't remove the Targa, kind of a bummer for me. So that's why I actually like the later Z06s for actually allowing you to have the Targa top, because that was kind of part of the whole appeal of a Corvette, was even if you got the most basic base model, you still had the opportunity to take the top off. It wasn't a convertible, but it was a Targa top, which, you know, is appealing in its own way, because I happen to think a Targa looks better than a convertible 9 times out of 10. Although some more modern convertibles with their retractable hardtops and stuff that keep some sort of like cowl behind the headrest, that looks better. I like that look. But yeah, for the most part, I would say a Targa looks better than a convertible almost every time, except on the most modern cars where you're starting to get a little more design into that. So it's not just like a shoebox, like a slab. Like, probably the car that looks the most like a slipper. Let me find a picture of one. Let's just say BMW 328i convertible. Yeah, we're talking like the E90 something generation. From the side, these look like just a freaking, they just look like a slip-on shoe. It's so dumb. I just never, excuse me. I just never, ever liked how the convertibles of these looked. It's just, ugh. Oh, geez. So that low mileage Miata went for 13? Okay. So, yeah, that's basically... that's a little more than I probably would have paid for that one, but I'm glad you were at least looking. Yeah, that's enough looking at this shoe-like design. Anyway, yeah, no, this is... this would be a 97. So I think 97... That was like the turnover year where the Corvette in 97 introduced the LS1, but the Camaro didn't get it yet. So the Camaro in V8 form was rolling with the LT, as far as I recall. I don't think they introduced the LS to the Camaro until like a year or two after this. But yeah, you would have to double check on that. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, these 97s for the Camaros, any kind of F body in 97 still came with an LT, not with the LS, because the Vet was the only game in town for that at the time. Yeah, the Opti Spark. Yeah, GM is really good at making engines, but then they're also really good at, you know, having at least one fatal flaw somewhere buried in. Well, not really fatal, just annoying. But I mean, the internet will make a mountain out of a molehill anytime there's something to talk about, so I wouldn't read too much into people complaining about a given platform. Like, if a motor becomes really popular, say like an LS, and there'll be a million people out there who will tell you all the things that are wrong with the LS, and it's like, yeah, but it's still more reliable than the vast majority of all these other motors that are out here trying to do the same thing but cost more to work on. Granted, it's because the aftermarket hasn't developed for a lot of those motors competing with it, but that was kind of the age-old like Chevy versus Ford problem, where for a long time, I mean, yeah, the modular 4.6 had a lot of mods out there and stuff for it, but the LS just really carried that era. All right, what do we got here? Oh, I got 7 viewers, so there's some new people in here. Hello to whoever's joining here. G. Davis, speaking of the interwebs, I miss the days of being unreachable. Yeah, you know, sometimes you just want to be able to, like, go out into the woods, have nobody know where you are, and just disappear for a few days. And then you come back, and then people are like, where were you? And then you have a suspicious look on your face, and maybe your neighbor... No, I'm joking. No, it's definitely a different time we live in now, where you're constantly connected at all times to everything. I mean, Gen Z kind of takes it in stride because they really never got a choice, whereas, you know, millennials like me, we kind of had that bridge gap between... I grew up with like Windows 3.1 and you know, tube TVs and all that kind of stuff, and the internet was not a thing in my household for many years, at least until what was it, maybe 97, 98, when we first got dial-up at our house, I want to say. I mean, it was a long time before that happened. And thank you, Yoshi, for agreeing with me. I was going to say correcting me, but no, you're just parroting, yeah, what I was saying there. So I don't know, the 98 plus. Okay, yeah, getting the LS1. Love to return to the 80s as long as my iPad still works. Yeah, I don't think that would work that way, G. I don't think we can take our new tech back with us to the past. Although, Back to the Future would argue differently. Question is, actually, here's a question for everybody in the chat right now. If you were going to have your own Back to the Future experience, what would your time travel vehicle be? Doesn't even necessarily have to be a car. Just what would you use as your time machine that you could put your Mr. Fusion into and kick it? Really curious to see some answers. Good God. Okay, yeah. All these Teslas going for stupid money. Even Model 3s. It's 21. You barely use the car, dude. How many miles are on it? Not even 8,000 miles. Okay, it's basically a new car. This looks like fun. Bad engine, $2,500. Oh, but there's so many Subaru motors out there you could just swap into this thing. For $2,500, I don't know, you can see if you sell it for like $2,000. Doesn't even have the front bumper on it. I mean, it looks like they were in the process of building their own knockoff Crosstrek when things went south. Engine was consuming oil. Okay, is there any more info than that? I mean, it does have a manual, so that's a plus. All right, let's see here. We got G. Davis. First car for Back to the Future, a 71 Chevy Nova. Paid $400 for it in 1983. All right. Ooh, yeah, Yoshi, this could be a good K-swap project. It's definitely an opportunity to give this thing a little more power than it had, and a better head gasket situation. Ooh, Graham with the R8 Spider. You want to go back in style. I like that. Would you have the 4.2 or would you get the V10? What else we got here? We can keep scrolling down. Okay, a Ford Deluxe convertible. What is it about some of these classic cars having like this red paint that almost looks like dried blood? Like it's so drab, just really, really bland looking. Like I get it must have appealed to somebody, but I guess I'm just not in that camp. You're bordering on plum, but it's too red to be plum. Just whatever that is. Oh yeah, good job. Yeah, Graham, the V10, because you need that sound. G. Davis, and I need Elizabeth Shue to be there. Oh yeah, Can't blame you for that one. I'm sure she could take time out of her busy schedule to be there for your time traveling purposes. What else? Okay, we've got... Okay, here's something. Now, maybe nobody gets super excited about a Mustang GT, but like, when I see this, I'm just reminded about what an amazing deal buying a Jaguar XKR is. Like the one I've got out in the garage, not 15 feet away from me right now. Because I have probably a good... Wow, really? Because these were what, 420 horsepower, maybe 450? Yeah. I've got 200 more horsepower than this in a very similar form factor, you know, long coupe, big doors, with a nicer interior. Granted, it's got some dated electronics compared to this thing because there's a good 8 years separating them, but you're paying $45,500 for this? I paid $22,000 for my Jag. And granted, when I bought it, it had like, you know, 60,000 some odd miles on it, but I mean, yeah, okay, this says 14,000. I imagine it comes down a bit, you know, yeah, it's some miles. It's going to even out. But yeah, no, that's, it's just interesting. Like, I am so happy with my Jag. The one huge drawback to it is they did not offer a manual transmission. And I know for a lot of people who are into that kind of thing, it's a non-starter. But I have to say, like, for the purposes of using it as like a cruiser, road trip car, Grand Tourer kind of thing, the automatic makes sense. And at least you have the option to hold gears past red line with, you know, the paddle shifters. So it's not a total loss. Like, you can actually lock it into the gears so it's not shifting itself at all. I mean, it's fully, it's automated, but, you know, at the same time, you can control it manually to the point that it's not defaulting back to an automatic. You can keep it locked in there. Because I know some automatics that let you have a manual mode, they'll kick it back over into the auto as soon as you know, cross a red line or do some kind of particular threshold thing that it decides, okay, that's enough, and it'll cut you off. But no, in the Jag, it lets you do that all because it trusts you're you know, a grown-up who can handle your own shit. Okay. I'm just surfing this because I find it fun, but I realize if I'm boring you guys, that's okay. I can switch it up. Okay, what do we got? Miles on the Corolla. Fair, they only have a warranty. Yeah, no, that's a good point, Yoshi. You get a warranty with that. But think about it in terms of like, okay, say like a 2015 or 2016 Mustang GT. Then you look at the prices of those, and it's still a lot more than what I paid for the Jag. And you don't have a warranty. And yeah, you have, you know, a lot of the things that might be attractive, but then to me, it's not as interesting because you're just one of many, 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 many Mustangs on the road. Whereas with the XKR, I've seen maybe 2 or 3 in the last month out on the road, if that. Whereas Mustangs, I mean, probably 30 or 40. But, okay, what's Yoshi saying now? Oh, Dane, I'm sure you'll find this interesting. A lot of the BMWs came with the same ZF6 transmission that's in your XKR. Well, there's been a recent surge in swapping in ZF8 transmission, 8-speed. Oh, okay, yeah, because it's a 6-speed ZF, yeah. So no, I actually like it. My biggest gripe about it, being realistic, is that it's just a little slow to respond on some of the upshifts. Downshifts, I find it's actually pretty quick, but upshifts, yeah, it kind of depends. Although there's a little bit of a kick in there. It depends on how much throttle you're giving it and whether it's in dynamic mode or not. When it's in dynamic mode, the programming changes and it is definitely a lot punchier. But yeah, it's still going to be slower than that 8-speed. As far as, you know, transmission programming goes, I would say the best transmission that I've had experience with in the last, I don't know, 3-4 years probably would be the 10-speed Ford. I forget who makes it, if it's a ZF or if it's like Ford's own unit or if it's an ASIN, I don't remember. In the F350 I had, that 10-speed is actually great, like really, really good. it had good programming that made sense, and the fuel economy gears were there, but at the same time, it didn't feel like it was constantly hunting and diving all over. It made sense when it shifted, so I like that about it. I mean, it didn't hurt that it had over 1,000 pound-feet of torque too, but you know, even with those giant wheels and tires, it actually felt pretty good. Are there any transmission tuning options available for your Jag? I don't think so, because when I talked with the tuner where I got my ECU flash to bump up the power on my ECU, the traction control, transmission, other stuff, they seem to be operated by some different modules, so they didn't have anything for those. And I can't imagine you could improve it too much in the programming without actually having to change some physical parts, in which case, yeah, that's probably more trouble than it's worth on a car like that. But to somebody, maybe it makes sense. But for my needs, I'm rarely dipping my foot all the way to the floor in that thing, because it'll break loose in like, it'll break loose on a lot of surfaces, we'll put it that way. The 10-speed is a collab between Ford and Chevy. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's a good transmission. I really like that 10-speed. Sorry, I'm getting like sniffles. Man, oh, am I getting a cold? That's a stupid time to get a cold. It's like 108 degrees outside. Okay, yeah, the 10-speed. I like that one. You know what okay, this may surprise some people. Transmission I absolutely hated had to be my 2020 Toyota Tacoma that I had for like about a year. That one was so frustrating. I don't know if it's like a common thing, but I had that thing from when it had less than 100 miles on it. I leased it, and it had this transmission that was incredibly frustrating to use. I mean, yeah, you could pop it into the manual, setting and do a little, push-pull shifter action there, but it just was not good. The main reason I say that is because you could be leaving like a stoplight and you could be next to a bunch of traffic. You could plant your foot in it and it would not give you a low gear to like take off with any kind of urgency. It would just keep it in a higher gear and it would kind of roll you off gently, and then it would probably wait about 5-6 seconds, and then it would kick into a lower gear and finally pick up speed. But in an emergency situation where you're sitting still and somebody's like coming at you like they're gonna T-bone you and you gotta make a quick reaction, it would not save your ass. Like, it was bad. I know, I'm sorry, we're on hot trans talk now. But yeah, for the transmissions, I mean, if I have anything to say about any transmission, it's that I hate that automatic that they put into the Toyota Tacomas. And I imagine they're still the same ones now, but I mean, it was a 2020, so it's not that old. But yeah, no, super, super annoying and just really lurchy. And it just felt like, I read somewhere online that it had to learn for the first few 100 miles, but I put probably 7,000 miles on that thing in the time that I owned it. And it improved a little bit, but not much. It would always have those issues though, from like a stop or any kind of like emergency quick inputs. It did not respond to that stuff. It was super, super laggy. It was just not a good time. I did not like that transmission at all. What else? Who else wants to chime in here? Drivetrain itself in those trucks is ancient. Yes. And yeah, so the funny thing is the V6 in the Tacoma was the updated one, the newer one. The one that's really ancient, I think it's a 4-liter, is the V6 that they used in the 4Runners, at least at the time that I got my Tacoma back in 2020. And that was one of the determining factors where they're like, all right, the Tacoma gets the new engine, has a little more power. It's more technologically advanced, because Toyota is very slow about updating that stuff because they like keeping things reliable, and I understand it. That's why they kind of milk it, but it's also a way to kind of, avoid accruing extra costs and extra complications, just to ride out a platform as long as you can before you absolutely have to update it with more than just a facelift. But yeah, no, the 4Runner's even older. as far as the drivetrain's concerned. So yeah, when Anthony talks about his wife's 4Runner, it's it's totally archaic. The engine of that, I mean, it drinks, you know, a fair amount of gas. It's not great, but the transmission tuning, I think his transmission is less shitty than the one that I had to deal with in the Tacoma. I was not a fan. And to make things interesting, Gabe, who you might also be familiar with from my workplace, he also for a while there had a 2019 Tacoma, and he had a manual transmission in it, and because he only wants to have his trucks with manuals, and Tacoma's one of the few out there you can do that with. So with that one, what we found was, I think Anthony drove it too, we all agreed the manual in that, like, it's not an exciting manual. I mean, it does the job, but it's kind of rubbery and just whatever. It's interesting though that it can't even make that particularly engaging. Somehow it just feels neutered and weird. Okay, that's enough of that. Facebook Marketplace, that's right, I'm kicking it over here. What do we got? More cars and stuff. Somebody messaged me. Oh, cool political text, love those. No, I'm not gonna support your candidate. All right, we've got, wait a second, is that a yeah, we got a Ram Charger. This feels like something that Luke would drive. That new Sequoia. The new Sequoia, let me pull it up here. The 2023? Yeah. Okay. They look a little beastie. I mean, I find the Tundra in its newest form to be a little ugly. I mean, some people might like it. I find it to be a little off-putting, but I think in Sequoia form, it actually works better. It definitely looks better. Hybrid only. Okay, I hadn't heard that. So is it the twin turbo V6 hybrid? Yeah, okay, so it is. Okay. Yeah, so basically, I mean, these get most of the Tundra running gear. But yeah, no, even though it's more or less the same face as the Tundra, I just kind of like how it looks better on this SUV body compared to a pickup truck. On a pickup truck, it looks weirdly too big. Like, I feel like a pickup truck should be more simple looking, but everybody's in a contest to like out ugly each other, it seems, these days when it comes to newer automotive design. Bigger. Yeah, I mean, I find the Sequoia is actually a little better looking. I mean, the Stormtrooper look is also cool. Maybe some people prefer like red or something. What's funny is you eliminate a lot of the details and you're left on this looking at what's basically like one of the new Grand Cherokee L's. Might switch it over to... the shape is slightly different, but it just gives off that vibe. Two-tone. Just change it up a little bit. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent, but it's fun. The higher trim level ones look much better in the base. Yes. I mean, you could say that about most cars. There's like the Facebook group where they do... Just kind of a fun thought exercise. Yeah, okay, here we go. Yeah, where for a while there was like a Photoshop challenge where people would take supercars and then Photoshop them like, okay, you know how when you buy like a Honda Fit, for example, or a Kia Forte or something, the absolute basest to the base model, not the one they show in the ads, because those always look better. They use the higher trim, but where they take basically a supercar and they're like, all right, now let's give it the shitty plastic bumpers and the base steel wheels and the, it's a fun concept, but there's some weirdos out there who actually think that stuff looks good. I just always found that to be kind of an amusing one. Oof, that Jag one hurts me though. F-Type, oh my god, that's bad. Of course, you would have to like Photoshop a hideous color to the C7 just to enhance the base modelness. Now TT, weirdly, I don't find that hard to believe. It actually looks like some high school kids TTs, like Audi TT I've seen with the wrapped bumper and like some weird ass wheels on it. Yeah, that's definitely not a totally unheard of. Yeah, oof, AMG GT. Updates on the T-Bird. Unfortunately, for all of the bites I do seem to get on the T-Bird, I just haven't had anybody actually show up outside of a small handful of people who have actually shown up, and they want to. The people who have shown up want to trade, stuff for it. Like there's this guy who has a like an early 1960s Ford pickup, but it's like a medium duty, so it's kind of like a 3/4 ton style pickup. Everybody knows like the half tons tend to get more attention and have better resale value. The higher duty trucks tend to be less of a enthusiast buy and more of like a work truck type thing. But when you get to a vehicle that old, it's obviously not quite the same level of appealing. So yeah, it's kind of an acquired taste. But yeah, there was some guy who wanted to trade me his 3/4 ton early 60s Ford pickup with like a manual and rust in the footwell, and then give me $2,000 on top of that for my T-Bird. And I was like, sorry, it's gonna have to be like at least $5,000 or $6,000 on top of the truck to really make that deal work. But that's the position I'm in. I had some people who like seemed really promising, and they were actually, like in Oregon, and they were gonna come take a look and check out the car. And I took videos, from the underside of the car, did all this stuff, and I was really hoping I could actually get the person to show up. Like I really gave them a lot of info, and they seemed appreciative. They were reciprocating messages for quite a while, and then they basically just ghosted me in the last week here. It's just been absolute radio silence. So it's frustrating because I feel like every time I start to make a little progress and somebody's actually going to do it, then it just kind of fades. And for my listing on eBay, I mean, we can go over there and take a look at it. Let's... Thunderbird. Let's try that again. Where in all these listings will my Thunderbird appear? Maybe if I type the year in, I will have better luck. Yeah. Okay, let's try this. There it is. Okay. So yeah. Here's my listing for the Bird, since you asked. And yeah, I mean, it's a pretty car. It's just it's an extra car that, I mean, I like classics, but I don't have any particular desire or plans to do anything major with it. The quirks on it are, here and there, but I just, putting money into it isn't something that appeals to me. I think it's probably something that other people would like to do, but I'm not asking an unreasonable amount for it, I don't think. Okay, eBay, flipping my pictures, that's cool. Yeah, and like the paint is like a respray from I don't know how long ago. The previous owner didn't know, but basically it looked like it was resprayed at some point, maybe in the 90s. And it's just, over the time, in the last like year I've had it, it already had these issues in the paint where it was like bubbled and stuff like that. That's not a new thing, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely not perfect. However, it does run and drive, all that good stuff. It's got the 352 FE Ford V8 in it. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I'm just hoping there's someone out there who wants Ford Thunderbird that they can fix up. So yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I don't know what else to say other than somebody out there, please, if you're looking or you know somebody who's looking, go check it out. I mean, it's a good car, but really, like, it's the best it could be as a basis for someone to then take on any given avenue for modification, like what they want to do with it. Do they want to restore it? You could do that. I can't imagine that would be super cheap. I know there's definitely some work involved there, but it could be done. Otherwise, you know, it's more of fix it up and turn it into a cruiser. I would say it's probably about 80%, 85% on its way to being a really solid cruiser. There's just things like replacing the tires, because they look decent, but they're actually very old, and I just don't trust old tires for more than like basic getting around town kind of stuff. I wouldn't take it on the highway for any extended period without getting new tires for it, kind of thing. So whoever buys it, I would recommend trailering it and then just kind of like driving around to your local place, getting a feel for it. The biggest problem with it is definitely just the brake situation, which obviously sounds concerning, but the reality is it's like the brakes are basically yeah, you're right, Yoshi. It's unfortunate, but the market for older cars gets smaller and smaller every day. Totally true. Because the, you know, people who want these things are getting much older and potentially aging out of, you know, well, existence in some cases, but also just their ability to drive. So yeah, outside of like collectors and stuff, or younger people who are like, maybe like Levi, who are into that vibe, who would do something like that. Some guy who owns like, I could just see a guy who owns like a tattoo shop getting this and slamming it and, you know, dressing it up a little bit. Like, I get that. That would work. But it's definitely not something where anybody and everybody and their cousin wants these things. It's a particular kind of person who wants it. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely people who are interested. I've seen more than a few people actually, you know, look at it, comment, that kind of thing. But obviously it's hard when you're looking long distance. So trying to do the local thing, but it's a mixed bag. So I don't want to dwell on it too much, but yeah, no, it's a cool car. It's just not for me. I mean, that's all I can really say about it. It's not for me. But somebody out there I know will absolutely love the thing, because I have gotten a lot of compliments. You know, anytime you're driving in it, people are like, oh man, that's a beautiful car. And it's just always that kind of vibe of like, wow. Trade Levi's red truck for it. You know, maybe Levi would trade me the red truck for it. I just don't know what I would do with the red truck. Honestly, I never really gave it that much thought. But yeah, getting a title for that thing would be challenging. That's the hard part. I'd need to like apply to get a new title for it. But if I did a straight across trade with Levi, he'd have the Thunderbird do what he wants. Oh, this is raising an interesting idea. I'm really just trying to sell the Thunderbird so that I can have like actual cash to, you know, do a little bit of, you know, work around the house, pay off a little credit card debt, you know, basic things like that. Just responsible things, but, you know, just normal people stuff. But yeah, it would be kind of fun, because I feel like the thing missing for me is I've talked about this before. I'm one of those people who feels like they need to have certain categories of vehicle in your driveway, right? Like you have a sports car, for example, something fun. It's you know, and I realize these are first world problems. There's some people out there who make do with one vehicle and they're totally happy, and they kind of look as anything else as being more excessive than anything else. I understand that. But if I'm looking at it just with my own understanding of things, I always feel like, okay, if you're going to have multiple cars, if you're able to have that luxury of going beyond just having one vehicle that you're forced to try and do everything with, then you can start to compartmentalize it and make it more specialized categories in your driveway. I find, like, for example, what Anthony does with all his cars to be kind of like, that's the opposite of what I'm trying to do. Because when you really look at it, Anthony just keeps getting Hondas and stuff like that, and it's just kind of repeating himself over and over and over, and it's kind of the same deal. It's one of those cases where, okay, how different on paper, other than specs obviously, are a CRZ and a Civic and whatever else may be over there that's a Honda or Acura kind of thing. It's gonna be more or less the same kind of deal. It's like, okay, it's got two doors and a hatch, or trunk is smallish, and you know, it's not doing anything really utilitarian, but it's your fun vehicle. So okay, it's fun handling or whatever, but the front wheel drive. Front wheel drive isn't as exciting to me. Everybody's different cup of tea. Anyway, what I'm getting at is I like having categories. So you have your fun vehicle, then you need something that can do like the dirty jobs, the housework, the whatever the case may be. And depending on your ability, your ability to have that luxurious, multiple vehicle situation, maybe you could then branch that off into, okay, this is the really utilitarian, like shitty pickup truck or whatever. It's just beater. You don't feel bad about it. And then you can have like a nicer off-roader type, whatever you want to do with it. For me, I compromised, not having a pickup truck. I have my 4-wheel drive JDM van, which is super fun. I love that thing. And there's so much space inside of it. Like, I really don't miss the concept of having a pickup truck at all. The part where it kind of hurts is the van is just, it has 95 horsepower. It's a 2.2 liter inline 4 naturally aspirated gasser, not diesel. It's not exciting. It is so slow. It is the slowest vehicle I've ever owned. I mean, really, really slow. And I owned a 1.6 liter NA Miata, so I know slow. But at least, with the van, it has fun handling and stuff. Despite being kind of awkward and tall and all that, it actually handles pretty decent. I put big knobby off-road tires on it. It's got low range. It can do all those things. It's fun, but it is really gutless. So sometimes, say you have like multiple people in there and you're trying to run the AC and you're doing all this stuff, you are crawling up hills. Like, it is old school Volkswagen bus territory slow. So there are times where I kind of go, is this really going to be a long-term thing for me? I really wish I had something that was this utilitarian, but had some more guts, like it could actually do it. Like, in a perfect world, if it wasn't incredibly expensive, I would love to do like an EV conversion on that van. I think that would be super cool, because I know some people scoff at EV, like, oh, it has no feel, there's no internal combustion engine, you don't get the fun of the vroom vroom noises, whatever. I don't care about that when it comes to my utilitarian vehicle in my driveway. For my fun vehicle, sure, the Jag makes all the right noises. It can totally burn out anywhere I want to. I can haul ass in it. It can definitely break the speed limit, all those things, and then some. But for the utilitarian vehicle, the van would be significantly better in an EV capacity. If I just build a bunch of batteries underneath the floor of it and just like built some kind of encasement down there and had it deal with like maybe an electric motor on each axle, so you could have front and rear wheel drive control, have some kind of setup so you could do like, diff type stuff, that would be super cool. I would love that. And even if it was a really small battery or like really small motors, it would still be more juice than the thing is currently putting out. It wouldn't take much to really outdo that. So that's kind of where I would see that being an improvement. That would make me want to keep it. But barring that, I think there will probably come a point where I do something. I know I've had a lot of cars in the last few years, but it's just one of those things where like, it's always kind of searching. It's just this kind of thing. But like, I know Yoshi, for example, you've got your BMW that you love, your diesel one, and that's really cool. But you also have like your Accord and stuff like that. Do you kind of get the vibe I'm going for, where you kind of split stuff in your driveway into different categories and you feel like that's the way to do it? Yeah, there you go. Start downsizing from 5 vehicles to 2 vehicles and a motorcycle. Yeah, no, I feel you. At a certain point, I mean, there's only so many vehicles you can drive at a given time, right? Here, I'm going to close this. There we go. Okay, so G. Davis, did this sour you to future sales/trades? Hashtag booty problems. Yeah, so I wouldn't say it totally soured me. I'd say it's just kind of like a minor speed bump, a little frustrating. But it is what it is. It's not gonna deter me from getting something I really want to get, or looking at vehicles at least. But it's not really helping because it's a vehicle that I have no desire to really do anything with. Outside of, it's just kind of cool to look at, and, someone else is more of an appreciation for that kind of car, just a classic big cruiser. Like, I like a modern cruiser, like a Aston Martin or GT kind of thing. that's the kind of thing I was going for with my Jag, which I love. But yeah, it's definitely, yeah, you'll just be more picky about what you do trades for. Yeah, Yoshi, that's right. In the case of the truck, I mean, it was basically the guy had cash, and he had most of the cash. Like, he had a good amount of cash, but he wasn't quite able to reach the amount that I was requesting, and he felt bad, so he was trying to figure out something that could make up the difference, and that's why he threw the T-Bird in as part of the deal on the truck. And it worked, it made sense, but same time, it was like the value of the T-Bird would be, you know, X, and I'm probably only seeing Y out of the deal ultimately, because there's just, you know, it's not as easy to sell that stuff as some people would want you to believe. But I don't know, there's some people who seem to have like God's gift when it comes to selling vehicles. Like, they just have it. I would say Anthony tends to have pretty good luck. I would look at Anthony as an example of somebody who really has a fairly simple time turning around and selling a vehicle he has, just because, let's be honest, he has a built-in audience. He can do that stuff. And there are people who watch his videos that he'll deny he has, but he totally has them. As a matter of fact, we'll watch some in a little bit here. But yeah, no, he definitely excels at turning a vehicle around, being able to sell it to an interested customer. My problem is the cars that interest me are extremely niche, like the ones that truly interest me, that I actually bother to spend money on. They're almost always really niche, and so it's very hard to then turn around and sell that to somebody without having to dig for that needle in a haystack buyer who actually has an interest in what it is I'm selling. Because to the average person, they'll look at like my van or something and be like, oh, that's cool, but then they will be afraid that they won't be able to get parts for it, or whatever, you know, case there may be. It's just, you know, it's frustrating. And G Davis, I was going to point this out, 94 MX-5 Miata M Edition, $9,000. It's steep for me, mostly because when I sold my NA Miata, it went for $2,600, so I feel kind of bad about that. I love my Miata. I would totally get another one. This one, those wheels are gross. I don't know who chose those wheels, but one guy's got Megan racing coils, new brake pads, rotars. I like that, rotars. It's got the Manzo exhaust, no rust. Okay, I'd be curious to see that. You know what was interesting was, if you are looking at a Miata and you ever pull up the carpeting behind the seats, where's a good shot? Okay, I guess. Basically, if you pull up the, you know, material behind the seats over that back panel where like your gas tank and all that stuff are, if somebody hasn't had their top on the car when it rained out or anything like that, it could definitely be some surface rust down there. I would just say, if you ever get a chance to peek in there on an NA Miata, at least, maybe an MB too, you'll probably find some surface rust under the carpet of those things for anybody who either had like a hole in their top or just left it down when it caught some rain or something. Car with a hard top, much less likely, but definitely something most people wouldn't think to check, but I would peek in there if I got the chance. It does require removing a few rivets though, which not every seller is going to be wild about. Yeah, a little crack there. Let's see. So what I've found to help is join the Facebook group for that vehicle. Be able to turn around and sell my BMW and Accord pretty easily. That's a good point, Yoshi. Yeah, I would say that's definitely good advice. It used to be, when I had more time on my hands, I would actually, yeah, be a part of a lot of the forums for different cars and stuff, because it did, you know, become a lot easier to sell vehicles like that. Because usually, if it's a niche interest, there's going to be people across the country who are like, oh, I'm in New Jersey, but I really, really like your van. I can't find them around here, so the fact you have one here in the States that I don't have to import is awesome. It's already registered. Cool. Okay, I'll buy it. I'll pay whatever amount for it. Like, for that van, I probably wouldn't sell it for less than, like, I don't know, 15 grand, I think. But, yeah, I thing about those is they're really hard to find. So, when you sell it, you better be sure about it. Okay, G. Davis. I found one near me. 1999 with 30,000 miles. They want 12K for. 30,000 miles is low. 12K for 30K? Oh, okay. It's a 99, which means it's an NB. I imagine it's not like a special edition or anything. But mechanically, those are solid cars. It's nothing too exciting in terms of the grand, sphere of Miatas, but they're fun cars to drive, no matter which one you get. Like mine, when I had it, I had a 92 1.6 liter NA. I lowered it. I put it on KYB. Yeah, no, I definitely had the right stuff for like an autocross kind of setup on it. Honestly, the best mod I ever did for it was putting Delrin door bushings on it, which are just these very simple little like a square version of a hockey puck, and it just goes in your door, and it looks like the door guide. Like when you close the door, that's all it is. That stiffened up the entire experience in the car so much. I swear to God, it felt like I added extra chassis bracing underneath. It was that much better. It was stupid what an improvement it made. But you can really tell like the chassis flex when the doors are open versus closed is nuts. It's a big difference. Your wife said you need to sell a car before buying another. Yeah, that's fair. What do you think you would get rid of in order to make room for the Miata? I mean, I'd fully endorse anybody picking up a Miata if they've never had the experience. It's so much fun. It really is. Like, I don't care if people make fun of people for having Miata. Oh, it's a hairdresser's car, whatever. They're so much fun. Just don't let other people ruin the experience for you. It is fun. Are they gutless? Yeah, absolutely. But there's some pretty sweet mods out there for them. You can have some fun. But for all intents and purposes, you have a fun car, whether it's got power or not. You take those corners, that's a great time. Especially, yeah, put some good tires on it, get some good lightweight wheels, less unsprung mass. Good suspension goes a long way. Just like really quality coils would go a long way to make it nicer. But yeah, whatever you pick up, I would definitely say, if you want to have the best experience with it, get some like adjustable coils for it. Yeah. No, Yoshi, you're totally right. I wanted a Miata, but couldn't justify the price now versus a motorcycle. Yeah. For the NAs, specifically, the pop-up headlight ones, the NA models, the early generation, not naturally aspirated, but, that's just the chassis code. Yeah. NAs are the really desirable ones now. Everybody's started to see them appreciate. People with totally shitty clapped out ones are asking dumb money for them. It's really hard to find anything cheap anymore. Like when I got mine, it was, I want to say it was like 2014, 2013. Am I blanking now? I'm totally blanking. Anyway, it was around it was like 2014, 2015, somewhere around there. And I got my Miata. It was a 92, 1.6, short nose, all that stuff. NA Miata. I picked it up for $1,200 from an apartment complex parking lot in La Grande, Oregon. So like a few hours from here, just a simple drive over. The car was pink when I bought it. It was such faded paint. It was just totally chalked out, really bad. But it's a red car underneath. I mean, it's the most basic one they sold too. No air conditioning, nothing. Like, you'll be able to tell really quickly on an NA if you look at the dash and you see the the adjuster for the fan speed and the the other settings on the HVAC. If it doesn't have AC, there will be no button in the center of the twist dial. If it has AC, there will be a button there. Mine did not have a button. It was bargain basement. Picked it up for $1,200. Had 202,000 miles on it, give or take. I put a bunch more. I got it up to like 220 something. It was fantastic. It was the cheapest of the cheap, high miles. I would, honestly, for the Miata experience, if you want an easy way to go at it, find a clapped out high mile one, and with your mechanical savvy, just go ahead and work on it, fix the problems with it, and keep its life going. I mean, I find that's some of the best Miata experience you can have, rather than trying to pay high money for a really well kept example. Don't get me wrong, a really well kept example is going to be nice, and you're going to be able to sell it for, a good amount when the time comes. But if you get a cheap, just like cheap, stripped out, rough one, and you fix it up, that's really, they're mechanically extremely simple. So it takes a lot for it to truly be dead without you know, having to go in and swap a motor or something. And even then, motors are pretty cheap. But yeah, the NAs are just harder to find. So yeah, finding one for a good price is definitely difficult. MBs are where it's at for value proposition. NCs, that's the third generation. Those are the ones that share the platform with the Mazda RX-8. Those tended to get a lot of shit back in their day for being like the bloated Miata. But the reality is they're actually still very small, lightweight cars. They handle really well. There's a lot of plus sides to them, and they actually had a good amount of power for what they were compared to their predecessors. So they're also a really solid way to go if that's something that interests you. I think one of the best bargains you can find, if you can find it, I've seen some retractable hardtop NC Miatas, like the GTs or whatever, going for like around 15 or even less. Now that to me is actually worth around 12 to 15 if you're in the market for a Miata and you want something with a little more creature comfort, a little newer, but still with like that trademark Miata handling, feel, all that stuff. Like, yeah, is it bigger than the others? Absolutely. But outside of that, or like a new ND or ND2 Miata, I would just, for the early ones, I would just go bargain basement. I would find the shittiest one that still runs, is nice, can take a hit, but isn't anything, you know, pretty, and just build it up, work on that. Because I find that experience, at least in my experience, was the best way to enjoy a Miata without any fear of consequence. It was a lot better than feeling like, oh, I spent a lot of money for an old Miata and it's incredibly slow and frustrating. If you get it for really cheap, you tend to be more forgiving of those things. So, just a thought. All right, what do we got here? I'd sell my Corolla 2004 with 39,000 miles. I think I could get about $8,500 for it right now. Okay, yeah. I mean, people are looking for gas savers. Even though the price of gas is coming down, I wouldn't necessarily count on that lasting forever. These things are cyclical, but, you know, the war and all that stuff didn't really help either. And of course, then the companies are raking in profits on an unseen level. They didn't really feel the need to make it cheaper anytime soon. But anyway, Yoshi, I have a friend that imported a Unos, I never know how to pronounce that, right now, before the shutdown in 2020, and a 6K into the whole car with a hardtop coilovers, wheels and tires and maintenance. It has like only 90,000 kilometers. Wow, okay. Yeah, 90,000 kilometers, that's, how many miles is that? Wow, 55,923 and a half miles. That's great. That's really great. Nice. No, that's sweet. All right, let's take a look over here. You guys want to watch some videos of Anthony's? I think that'd be kind of fun. Let's go over some old TRC stuff. Ooh, okay. What's All Day Anthony up to? Let's check it out. All right. So, for those who've been, you know, following Anthony, he's had this whole saga with the Honda CRZ he bought. He really enjoys the car. And I thought it was really cool when he got it. He picked it up at auction for like $2,400. But his audience, this is where I get a little inside baseball. Being a content creator can be incredibly frustrating sometimes because you may have different interests than what your audience has. And that's just a fact of life. Like, that's part of the reason why I actually bothered to create this Twitch channel and start doing this stuff, was as kind of an outlet for me to talk about the car stuff that I can't do in my day-to-day, you know, live streaming stuff back at work, which, hey, don't get me wrong, those are super fun. I love talking about that stuff. I think Anthony and I can vibe on that, and like Levi and I can vibe one-on-one on that stuff. But when we're all three together and we're doing our live streams and we're answering detailing questions, it becomes a lot more challenging to try and satisfy answering those kinds of questions without boring all the people who tuned in for detailing, because they just want to talk detailing all day long. That's all they care about, and they have no interest in other things, at least as far as our ability to deliver anything remotely entertaining surrounding that. But the fact of the matter is we all have our own interests that go well outside of that, which is why we kind of dip our toe in the water doing the Rad Company podcast and stuff, where it's just more of like a general shoot the shit for, you know, a morning on a weekday, that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed doing that, but I realized, you know, the audience for that's a lot smaller because it's not some kind of like hot button topic, and it's also not detailing, and it's hard to categorize. But for those of you who do tune in, we really appreciate it, and it does seem to be growing. It's just, you know, slow. And I think a lot of that is not necessarily, people aren't so much watching it on the YouTube channel, even though that's kind of where it lives as a video, but there's a lot of people listening on the back end, like when they're off, you know, on a job or they're road tripping or something, they play that stuff in the background. We can see there's a lot of interest there, so that's nice. But anyway, I'm off on a tangent. That's what streaming here is. What I was really getting at was, yeah, so Anthony bought this car, this Honda CRZ. Cool car. Always thought they were really neat. The only problem was the drivetrain kind of let him down. As far as being a performance car, you know, air quotes. But yeah, no, the CRZ was always one of those could have been kind of cars where they released the concept initially and people's minds were blown because they're like, oh my god, finally a modern, you know, CRX, we're so excited. And then when the car comes out, it's actually a hybrid with the fit motor, and it's not fast, it's not particularly, you know, sporting outside of its ability to be optioned with a stick, which, hey, that's great because that's really hard to find for you know, finding a manual hybrid outside of like the original Honda Insight or something. You're not finding a Prius with a manual, basically. But yeah, it's a unique car. You don't see many of them, and unfortunately, even though it's a Honda, it just didn't seem to bring in the people to Anthony's channel like he'd been trying. So, you know, he tried some different stuff, doing like a body kit on it, trying some different parts out, just, you know, trying some interesting bits on. And I don't blame him. Like, I really thought the car was cool, but it ended up being more of a car that he really enjoyed driving every day, but it just wasn't doing much for his channel. When he gets these cars like this one, it's usually so he can try and do something on his channel. I mean, it's a Honda, it should be doing well, but turns out even on his very Honda-centric channel, the audience skews a little differently than that. It's not just the Honda people, they're specific Honda people. They're only interested in his red Civic. We always joke about, like, that's it, that's all they care about. Everything else could catch on fire tomorrow and they wouldn't care as long as the red Civic is there. Like, he's got a friggin' Evo 9, for Christ's sakes, an MR, and it just nobody on his channel really cares outside of a handful of people. I feel like I'm one of them, but yeah, that's just one of those really frustrating things. Yoshi, I was just thinking he should do a first generation Insight as a project, but I don't think it would do as well. Yeah, no, it's frustrating because the Insights too are like, that's a fun little car. If you've ever driven one of those, they are fun, but it's not one that's going to get a ton of views. And what's funny is, like, to the uninitiated, people who don't know what they're looking at, they'll see like the Insight, like a first gen Insight, not the later weird Insights that are like a Prius knockoff, but those early ones, they're basically just you know, something that's kind of fun, but they don't get the eyeballs because people look at them and they think it's like a Toyota Echo or something, which the Toyota Echo is one of those goofy little cars that you look at and think, oh yeah, that should be like a little hybrid or something, but actually they're just a little gas or normal econo car, whatever. But yeah. Oh, look at this. I got Dino popping in. Go Tango. Thank you, Dino. That's awesome. I appreciate that. Really appreciate that. Glad to see you here. Yeah, so I have been shooting the shit for 2 hours now. It's weird how natural this feels, but I don't know. Am I like boring you guys to death just like talking your ear off? I get really self-conscious about this stuff, so I never really know if it's something that people are actually interested in or if you're just humoring me. But if you're enjoying this, I really appreciate that. So thank you to everybody who's watching right now. And yeah. No, I'm enjoying this, like a little back and forth. So keep the comments coming if you got questions about car stuff. I'd love to chat about it. But I did think it'd be kind of funny to pull up some of Anthony's stuff here. All right. Well, let's look here. So yeah, basically, you remember the Heap Car Challenge. We got the the cars back in the day there, but then we moved up, and after he sold the white Civic, there was a long gap where there was like 2 months in between videos there, and he's like, okay, finally I got something to talk about. It's the CRZ. So he got that and he started going. Yoshi, I know 3 to 4 hour streams are pretty normal. I watch, some streamers, but honestly, my experience with streaming is usually in clips on YouTube. So like the streamers I enjoy, I'm usually just catching up with like their clips on YouTube after the fact. But yeah, no, actually doing it is a little bit different experience. And like the guys, Anthony and Levi, they'll complain about anything longer than like an hour or two. They're just like, oh my God, it's such a long stream. Whereas we joke, I'm like editing mode. I will do this. I will keep going. And as long as there's something interesting to talk about, even if there's nothing interesting to talk about, if I can find something to like carry that interest, I'm happy to keep going. So yeah. No, I feel like it's actually pretty natural. The only reason I would stop anytime soon is because I would actually go and get some dinner probably in the next hour or two. But I'm enjoying this. And all said, like if I stop this stream in the next hour or two just to go get some dinner and stuff, I don't think that'll be the last time I stream today. I'll probably come back afterwards and try and carry on some more. I think that'd be kind of fun. But it is definitely a learning curve figuring out, okay, the pacing. Do you watch stuff or do you just talk the whole time? Because I'm not having that normal thing where I have a rapport where I can like bounce off another person. Because if I'm honest, that's where I do best. Like you see it when Anthony and I have those podcasts where it's like just him and I, we're able to really kind of go down that kind of back and forth rapport that I really enjoy. I really like doing those. Or like me and Levi, where we can like talk about stuff and you can focus. I think with 3, it's fun. It's a little more chaotic, but I find oftentimes like on the podcast, I'm being honest, I feel kind of third wheel in there a lot of times. And I think other people kind of see that too, where, yeah, I introduce us and stuff. I'm the one who came up with the concept of us doing the podcast and the live streams in the first place. And I'm really glad we do them. But I'm not the detailer of the bunch. So obviously my opinion is going to be third rate compared to their stuff. So while I have learned a ton being in their presence and like working on stuff with them and everything, there's a lot of jokes and stuff. But the reality is, I'm not the one people are going to turn to and be like, hey, you, Dane, give me detailing advice. It's only people who like don't have the option of talking to Levi or Anthony who will then turn to me and go, well, you're here. How about some detailing advice? And I can totally deliver with the best of them. Like my answers are more or less parallel to what they would say, with the exception of like some really deep like knowledge that they had from a weird experience one time working on a particular kind of paint or something. I can do a lot of the product stuff, but when it comes down to it, yeah, no, I'm usually the third choice amongst the 3 when it comes to answering that kind of stuff. So in a case where the streaming audience is focused on detailing, yeah, I'm going to get cut off by the guys a lot because they're going to have a word to get in edgewise. But the reality is I do have stuff to talk about. I do have things that I actually have an interest in. It just doesn't necessarily carry so much over there. It's something where, okay, here we got to do it. So I just really appreciate you guys popping in and actually being a part of it here, because this is kind of my outlet now. But yeah, G. Davis, thanks. The recent Anthony Dane Q&A was wonderful. I had a lot of fun doing that, and I like kind of the tangents we went down to. Dino, can we get some insight on your opinion on C7 Audi A6 sedan facelift from 2015 to 2018? Interesting choice there, yeah. And Yoshi asked, my streamer friend once did a 9-hour stream. That was pretty brutal. She'll usually eat on stream as well. Yeah, no, the streamers I've seen usually are like eating on stream because you're here for like a quarter, even half the day sometimes for the really ridiculous ones. I get it. It's always good to have also an opinion from a person that knows detailing but doesn't do it as much. Thank you, Dino. I think the role I always try and play on the TRC podcast and the Q&A is I try and take the info that I already know and what I think the guys are going to say, and I try and regurgitate it in a way where it's maybe more friendly to somebody who's not like a detailing brained person, because I feel like I can speak to that better than they can. Like, they're really good at interacting with people, obviously, it's what we do every day, but I feel like in particular, if I'm gonna back myself on anything, it's gonna be the fact that I feel like I can help narrow down the idea into something that's more palatable, more digestible for somebody who doesn't spend every waking hour thinking about detailing. That's where I try and come at it from. I'm like, okay, for a person who has a car that they just want to take care of, and they're not the expert at any of this stuff. They don't live and breathe all these YouTube channels that have, a bunch of detailing stuff out there. They're just somebody who has the interest, but not necessarily the skill set yet, and they're trying to learn. Levi and Anthony are usually pretty good at talking to people like that, but I feel like sometimes they'll pop in with the acronyms and the stuff, just a baseline understanding where they take it for granted that somebody already knows what they're talking about. And I will feel the need to kind of butt in and try and make my, sense of it for somebody who is new to that. Because the number one, I swear to God, when I look at the comments on Rag Company videos and stuff, one of the most common comments is, what is O and R, or what is O and R? Because we say it like so off the cuff. It's just a thing we all understand. That's the product you use when you're cleaning a car because it's easy, reliable, whatever. But to somebody who doesn't spend time around detailing, that is going to be a totally foreign concept. They hear this phrase over and over, O&R, O&R, O&R. What is that acronym? I don't know what the hell that means. That's totally foreign to me. I'm just here because I was told you guys knew how to clean cars safely and I wanted to learn from you. So that's where I feel like I fit in, and I can really help kind of bridge that knowledge gap for people. It's not that people are dumb or they're stupid or anything like that. There's just a bunch of people out there who are ignorant and or uneducated on a particular subject matter, detailing in this case, and they want to learn, but sometimes there's that barrier, there's that frustration where they feel like it's kind of gatekeepy, right? Like somebody is using this terminology that sounds very natural to them, but to somebody else is just total jargon that flies over their head. They need some kind of like step ladder to get to that level, and that's where I feel like I can provide that. Excuse me. That's where I feel like I can help be that branch. Let's see. I've got a few people here. What do we got? Recent. It's always good to have an opinion from a person. Yeah. Thank you. And don't tell Levi, but I tried listening to his podcast. Boy, it's okay, man. Like, I don't think he would take it personally, because I'm afraid I'm boring people right now talking here. But at the same time, I hope there's at least a few people out there who feel like, oh, this is actually relatable for whatever reason. That's why I really, really, really am gravitating towards what people are saying in the chat, because that helps me know, like, okay, here's the temperature of the room. Here's what we're doing with this. I can kind of move on to another subject, or, just take it as it comes. But you guys are kind of steering the ship right now. I'm just talking until somebody gives me something new to riff on. But I guess that's really, when it gets down to it, that's what streaming is, in its most like caveman basic form, right? So yeah, this is definitely the more raw version of streaming, whereas like when we do our podcast and our Q&A, that's very structured. We have a time frame we're operating in. This is willy-nilly. I could turn this off at any time. I could start again, whatever. It's a little more crazy in that sense, but at the same time, it's not necessarily going to have that urgency, and I don't feel like it needs to have that urgency where you constantly feel like, okay, the clock's ticking, we got to hit all these points. I don't feel that here, and I really like the relaxed atmosphere, but I understand how that could be boring to some people, and that's also why I'm playing music in the background, to keep it a little more interesting. But also, there's just that kind of like lingering suspicion in the back of your head, like, does anybody actually care about this? Does anybody really have an interest? And I'm just trying to make it work. But thank you again to anybody watching and listening right now. And yeah, it means a lot. So Yoshi, what is O&R? How can I foam it? Yeah, no, doesn't matter how many times you say it, people always wonder. And I'm not just talking about Luke Berge. G. Davis. I enjoy the favorite pad and polish question. Yeah, no, that was a good one. I appreciate that. And like, hey, if people want to talk detailing in here, I'm not opposed to it. Like, I can talk about it to a decent degree. If people have questions, I'm happy to help. But, my opinion, little grain of salt. I'm going to take the more normie, approach to that, because I've seen what the, really detailing psychotic brained people do versus what the normal people do, and I try and find that happy medium somewhere there. Doesn't always find success, but you know, I try. Let's see what else we got. Keep those questions coming, guys. I'm appreciating this, all this chat coming through. It's nice. And if anybody is watching but hasn't commented yet, throw something out there. I was asking earlier, kind of off the cuff, but I'm just curious, what would your Back to the Future vehicle be like? It doesn't have to be a car. It doesn't even have to be, you know, a wheeled vehicle. It could be like a boat or something. What would you use, though, as your time machine if you were finding yourself in a Back to the Future scenario? Had G with his Nova, that's noted there. I also heard R8 Spider V10 from Graham. That was cool. But what else you guys got? Oh, okay. Yeah, so Dino's asking about the C7A6 Quattro 2017. Well, let's pull that up so everybody can see here. Yeah. Oops. For your A6, is it an Avant or is it a sedan? Yeah, because I always thought these were handsome looking, but yeah, I always thought they were nice looking. I always thought the rear on these looked a little understyled. That's just personal taste, really. But I never thought they were bad looking. They're very good looking. It's just the back to me always felt like kind of like a plus size Jetta. They're really good looking from the front, though. I always found Audi styling to be, while it's a little restrained, it is very, very nice to look at. Not ugly. So you got the sedan. So it's basically, you know, along the lines of this guy. What color is yours? Also, fun choice with the Yugo 55. Yeah, well, there's one way to do it. It might be kind of fun to do it with like a Lada or something, or a Tatra. Sapphire black with the chrome trim. So, kind of like this, I'm guessing? Maybe? At least something like that. Okay. No, I think they're very handsome looking. Now, if it's black, you've got yourself a black, you know, is it a metallic black or is it a gloss black? What kind of finish is it? And then while you're answering that for me, I'm going to go ahead and talk to G. Davis here, who's asking, let's see. How has YouTube detailing changed in your view since the Q&A started? Oh boy. Man. It's kind of a loaded question when you think about it. There's so much that I feel is just like changed in the entire online environment involving detailing since we started the Q&A. I mean, granted, back when we started doing videos, it was, talk about it like it's ancient times. It was only like 2014, 2015 when we started doing videos over on the TRC channel there, detailing videos and stuff. I had had a lot of video experience, but I really didn't have a lot of detailing experience, so I just took what I understood about one and applied it to the other, but I was using an ancient version of Final Cut I had on an old computer. Like, it was Final Cut HD. It was from like 2009 or 8. It was really old, but it was doing the job. So those first videos I had with Levi were definitely interesting ones. But yeah, no, I feel like a lot of it has changed just in terms of like the customer base has become a lot more informed than they used to be. Is that all up to the Q&A? I doubt it. There's a lot of people out there who are getting a lot of information from a lot of sources. But I think with the advent of more modern marketing to an industry that frankly was kind of dealing more in the past, with the exception of like brands like Chemical Guys and stuff who were making videos like that. Think of them what you will, but they were making videos that actually were kind of more at the forefront of what, you know, digital media marketing was capable of at the time. They were reaching people who, I mean, they were one of the few out there who were doing what they were doing when they were doing it, and they had a strong presence. Like, yeah, Lariat Ammo was obviously doing his thing too, but people would think of him more as an individual, and then maybe Ammo as a brand was kind of more secondary, where people saw it as a nice thing, but it wasn't necessarily like, oh, that's the go-to brand for some people, whereas something that was more widely available or more inexpensively available would be. I mean, I think for a lot of people, if you talked about detailing back in 2014, 2015 when we started, most people were still thinking Mothers and Megs and all these other places that you can just get off the shelf at the store. One thing I would say, though, is that the biggest change I've found, like at least in the last 2-3 years, has been where the old legacy companies who used to do that stuff, like used to be the old standbys like Turtle Wax and Griot's and Mothers, a lot of these Megs, all these companies who had like a strong presence at an AutoZone, part shelf, or an O'Reilly's or something like that, Advance Auto, whatever you have, stuff you could find in the store. Those brands were seen as being kind of old school, and maybe it's something your dad bought, but you were looking for something different. Those brands in the last 2-3 years or so have really started to catch up. Like, they noticed what was going on online, and the smart ones paid attention to what places like, frankly, we were doing and what some of the other brands were doing out there. But they were definitely noticing that there was a new wave of people showing up online looking for info about this stuff, and the products that they could get on the shelf weren't as appealing anymore. So there was definitely a difference to be found there. I would say, like Turtle Wax pretty notably bumped their game up a lot, because they were seen as like, oh, Turtle Wax, old man brand. But yeah, no, like their stuff has improved significantly, and I seen, some of the why, and it makes sense. So yeah, no, I would say the companies who were the legacy companies who were just kind of like coasting on their image from decades past or years past, they finally stepped their game up, and they noticed what was going on, changing in the field and trying to meet the moment. So that's probably one of the biggest differences I've noticed. But that's more on the brand corporate side of things and the product lines. That's less on the consumer side. What I've noticed on the consumer side is people who are actually looking for this stuff are definitely more engaged. They know more than they used to, and they're not afraid to talk about it or, challenge somebody that they think is incorrect. The problem is, now that there's a lot of information out there, there's also a lot of misinformation where, a dumb rumor or something will start online, and then people take it as fact. And it turns, this tale as old as time, right? But it just turns into this colossal snowball of shit that nobody wants to deal with. It can be really frustrating sometimes, because people think one thing that just isn't accurate, but one person had a bad experience, and it turns into, oh, that's what that product does, or that's what that brand does, or whatever. It can get really frustrating sometimes. But all in all, we just try and I wouldn't say stay in our lane, because we're always trying to expand what we're doing, and get creative about it. But I would say we, as people on the behind the scenes side of things, are always trying to up the ante and make things more interesting. The audience doesn't always agree, though. We've been frustrated with the growth of our channel, I'll be honest. It's really been hard since about 2017, 2018. Growth of pretty much all YouTube channels, unless you're in like a really hot controversial space or something, is really freaking hard to grow your channel now. Ever since what they called the adpocalypse, for anybody who paid attention to that stuff, it made things way more challenging to get, to become viral, to get caught up in the algorithm, all that stuff. It's just a different animal than it used to be. All right, so let me go back to the questions here. I really went off on the tangent there. Have a 19 Audi TT convertible, amongst other. Okay, yeah. New Audi TT is fast as hell. I love the TTRS. I love that 5-cylinder that they put in them for the last few years. Anytime there's an odd number cylinder car, I'm into it just because it sounds cool. It is interesting. I mean, I get from a packaging perspective why there's never been a straight 7-cylinder. I'm sure there's some serious balance issues associated with that. but it is fun to think. I'm sure somebody out there has done something crazy. There's a channel that I used to love watching. Not that I don't anymore, I just haven't watched them in a long time. A channel called Vizio Racer, where it was just kind of like a listicle type channel, but they would do post videos about like, you know, different engines or, you know, different types of cars with just a bunch of like audio clips and stuff. It was interesting. What do we got going on here? Oh, Luke sent me some pictures of the car. It appears it once had... Okay, so this is on Luke's Scion TC. It appears it once had a spoiler on the truck, based on these holes. But what's funny is looking at the holes, you'd almost think somebody had been standing directly over the trunk and pointing a gun down at it and shot it. Yeah, so those are pretty nasty looking. I hope they're plugged with something. It looks like there's something in the holes in this picture, maybe a little putty or something, but yeah, I hope that's protected from moisture. Yeah. Oof. Okay, a lot of clear coat damage and stuff. Okay. That's there we go. Thank you for sharing those, Luke. Car looks a little rough. G. Davis. I thought the disaster detail would be played out by now, but that's all Ammo NYC does now, it seems. Yeah, so we did notice, like, it's interesting with the evolution in what's popular in the detailing sphere, as far as videos go. Like, our channel has never had, I'm just being honest, our channel has never had explosive growth in the way that a lot of these other channels have had. Not because I think we're doing anything wrong. We like to experiment and change up a lot of what we do from video to video just because it's more interesting to us, but it's not necessarily conducive to like fitting into the algorithm and getting a slot. But yeah, no, there's definitely certain niches, once again, that you know, detailing channels will fall prey to, whether they do it on purpose because they want to, you know, game the system and it works. I don't necessarily knock anybody for doing it. I just find it to be kind of uninteresting at a certain point. Like, I'll watch one if it's a car I'm interested in, but otherwise, once I've seen a disaster detail, you kind of seen most of them, unless there's something particularly heinous about a given one. And at that point, it's just kind of basically whatever the this disgusting version alternative to, like, you know, detail porn is or something. So yeah, it's basically just an excuse to, I don't know, be shocking. But in Larry's case, Larry's a very smart guy, and I've met him on a number of occasions, and he's really nice. Yeah, I really like talking with him. But yeah, as far as his channel and stuff goes, I'm pretty sure he's handling a lot of the direction that stuff goes in, but he has like a whole video team that he like works with to produce that stuff. So there's a lot more, you know, orchestration going on. And I think in order to make the most sense in terms of effort in and return on that effort investment, they need to do things that are going to be, you know, reciprocated that way. So disaster detail pays the bills. That's the route they're going to take. Although I think it's also because if your goal is to grow your channel and you want to get as many people looking at stuff as possible, that's just a smart approach to it. That's going to work for a lot of people. Yeah, so it is what it is. Let's see, looking back down, new Audi TT fast as hell. I saw it shred 458 at Halia on the quarter mile. Wow, okay, that must have been modded or something. It's not a TTS or TTRS, but it's still quick. Okay, nice. Yoshi, I love how Daza swaps are now a thing. I want a Daza swap Golf Sport Wagon now. That'd be a great sleeper car to own. Luke in a Scion seems very un-American. I know, isn't that interesting that Luke, of all people, Mr. America himself, rocking a Scion? I mean, they don't even make those anymore. Then again, I guess Scion is technically more American than Toyota because Toyota introduced Scion pretty much exclusively for the American market. So you could look at it that way if you want to. Or Jetta Sport Wagon, yeah. Right, guys, it's 15 here. Work tomorrow. Catch everyone later. All right. Well, Graham, it's been fun having you here. I really appreciate you chipping in and helping on the comments. That's been fun. So thank you, and have a good night. And as far as podcast is concerned, I'll probably be doing the podcast for TRC. We've been doing more Tuesdays now, mostly because I think we have a lot of stuff happening on Mondays every week, it seems. I don't know how it'll go this week, but I'm going to guess we'll do it on Tuesday morning, probably around 10. So I don't expect a podcast tomorrow, but if it does happen, don't be surprised either. Yeah, so we'll work on that. G. Davis, his silent purchase will be scrutinized during his run for governor of Pennsylvania. Yeah, can you imagine Luke being a governor of anything? Terrifying, right? He would make it like a state inspection where the cars have to be as inefficient as possible. Like, if it's not rolling coal, it's a problem. It's just like intentionally making sure every car has an exhaust leak, even if it's brand new. Oh, it's a TTRS with exhaust on stage 1 tune. So maybe it's just because I'm not like deep in the whole, tuning mindset, philosophy and stuff, but I always found it kind of annoying when people throw out stage 1, stage 3, this kind of stuff. I realized to like a specific tuner that has a very specific meaning behind it in most cases, but I find it varies from vehicle to vehicle as far as what that stage consists of. So is there any real consistency to that, or are people just talking out of their ass? I've always been, curious how, most folks feel about that, because I always felt like it was kind of arbitrary, a little bit. Like, I get there's probably reasoning behind it, but it never seemed to have a real rhyme or reason, other than maybe stage 1 included like, oh, this is just a basic tune that accounts for a simple like intake plus exhaust or something. Anyway, let me know. I'm curious. Why don't we... Looking at cars here. Right, I'm pausing the music for a moment because I think it'll be kind of fun to actually watch video here. Why don't we watch an Anthony video? You know what? Wow, my stomach's growling. Luke, just for you, why don't we watch Anthony's rattle can paint job?
What's up, guys? Solid Anthony, and welcome back to the Civic vlog that you hopefully know and hopefully love. Because in today's video, we are rattle canning my $900 Honda Civic. Yeah, let's go.
Okay, yeah, thanks for clarifying. Stage 1 was an exhaust and an ECU remap. That's what I figured. It just seems like some people throw that phrase out there and they don't necessarily even know what they're saying sometimes. I don't doubt that you do, it's just sometimes people are kind of... The prep tracker did around 2.8 to 62. Wow, okay, yeah, we're talking a fast AF car there. I mean, anything with an all-wheel drive system and that kind of setup is going to haul, but...
So in today's video, we are putting the B in budget.
Those things are little beasts.
We are spray painting a good 1/5 of this car right here. And yes, you heard that correctly, spray painting. Now, if you watch my previous video, you'll know that I went through and detailed the entire interior of this car, making it look and feel amazing. However, the exterior was another story. Now, going into this build, I knew I was going to have to do some paint work. Now, one thing I was planning on doing...
Yes, G. Davis, it was.
...moldings of this car myself.
Also, is it just me, or do you guys love the clean and shiny air fresheners as much as I do? I think those things are awesome.
And I think I did. Now, what I wasn't planning on was painting everything else. So what I mean by that is that I picked up an extra front bumper from the junkyard. I paid all of $40 for it, and luckily for me, it was already in the taffeta white, but it was in rough condition and needed a reset.
Hold on, what? Say that color again, Anthony. It sounded like he said taffeto white. I don't even know what he said.
That is that I picked up an extra front bumper from the junkyard. I paid all of $40 for it, and luckily for me, it was already in the taffeto white, but it was in rough condition. And
when he said that, it almost sounded the way people who are like afraid to butcher somebody's name or say it wrong, and they just kind of like they're just kind of like word vomited out, but like in just obscured enough a way that you won't be able to pick up on like whether they used a vowel or a consonant. Like where it felt like he wasn't quite sure, so he's just kind of saying it that way. I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading into it too much.
Needed a respray. Now, the other things I was planning on doing was color matching the side skirts of the car.
Yes, Jay, he absolutely
my front lip and my eBay front
hypnotizing
grill.
with the hands constantly.
I was gonna take it to my friend Jonathan because he is a professional painter and has a nice shop, and was going to do it for a relative.
I mean, having met Chris Fix, he's very similar. What's up, guys? It's just constantly dancing with the hands. It's a whole thing. I mean, he may be Portuguese, but his hands tell me he's Italian.
Really good price. However, that's when things changed. Basically, he was having some issues with his gun where he was shooting out a ton of fisheyes. Basically, his lines were clogged and something wasn't working right, and he couldn't get somebody to come fix it in time. I waited about a month, and that was kind of the stagnant period of this car where not a lot happened. So after all that time, I thought, hell, I'm gonna have to do it myself. So the second paint session was completely unplanned for this car. I ended up rattle canning the front bumper, the front lip, the side skirts, and the grill. It was the most I've ever
When you're doing something with your hands, you tend to talk more. True.
I guess you'll just have to watch to see what happened. So what I'm going to do is show you the first bit of me.
So this is the other thing about All Day Anthony's videos. A guy who I definitely don't know and have zero association with. He likes to do a lot of setup. Like, this is another thing that I find so funny on TRC videos is we'll get comments like just on videos that are years old at this point, and people will be like, Jesus Christ, you talked enough. Like, they're just so mad that he likes to set something up before we show it, because everybody has such a short attention span these days. It's frustrating, but at the same time, like, I get it if you're coming to a video looking for, like, I just want to see the process and the outcome. I don't give a shit what you have to say otherwise. I get some people work that way, but it always cracks me up seeing people do that, because it's just, it's so intense for something that doesn't really deserve the intensity. I mean, when it comes to detailing stuff, more often than not, it's not an emergency. So don't come in here acting like it is.
Me painting the side moldings, and then the second bit of me painting the rest of the parts. Now, my friend Jimmy was able to get some awesome cinematics of this process in my makeshift paint booth. It was super janky, but I think it turned out pretty good. And again, I think you guys will just have to see it for yourself to know how.
Oh, and G Davis, yeah, no, him doing his ADA thing and keeping it separate from TRC Anthony. Over the last year or two, there have been definitely more people kind of bleeding in from one space to the other and picking up on it. But it's always funny to watch, just like people who are like, I know what's going on.
How it turned out. So that's enough blabbering. Let's jump into the painting.
Oh, see, you even said it.
I had some extra time at work today, so I decided to tackle the side moldings on the Civic here. So these are pretty rough. Most of that paint they're missing was from before sand.
Exactly, Yoshi. That's what I always found the funniest was in the ADA video. If you go back far enough on his channel, he totally says, oh yeah, I work at the rag company now. But on TRC stuff, no, we'll not admit it. So there's a little bit of a disconnect. The story is a little bit open-ended there.
So I decided to refinish them, and so what I'm going to do today is sand them down, starting pretty low, working my way up to about, I don't know, maybe 400, 600, and then I'm going to shoot my primer, level up my primer, sand it down just a little bit, shoot my color, and then shoot my 2K clear. And here's the other side molding for reference here. So this one, not bad. I could have color chipped a lot of this right here, but that's such a big area right there. I thought, why the hell not? I'm just going to refinish the rest of it. I already pulled out the rear molding, so why not do the fronts the right way?
Luke,
so,
I hope you're getting good info from this.
This one should look hopefully close to new. Here's the rears here. These are the roughest by far. So once I sand these things down, reshoot them, it's just gonna look a whole hell of a lot better. And so I'd rather, like I said, reshoot these instead of Dr. Color chipping them. So Hopefully those will turn out pretty good. All right, so I found a old Subaru box in a warehouse, and I decided
Wonder where
to
he
do
got
my
that
printing
from.
of the moldings here. It's kind of controlled area.
For those keeping score at home, the reason he has this box is because we had ordered parts for our Subaru project car at the time. We had a very nice Java Black Pearl STI, first year, '04. And yeah, it was a beautiful car, but we had these boxes, and I mean, it was huge. I don't remember why it was so huge. If it just needed to account for the curvature of like the whole part that was going in there. I can't remember if it was like a bumper piece or what, but anyway, yeah, big ass box.
Yeah, there's no wind or anything. So just shot my first coat of my flexible primer. So it's a fillable and flexible primer. So I can
Well, Yoshi, if Luke's not here, then I'm watching this rattle can painting video for no reason.
So the base coat was color matched. So I got this right here. Got this at my little local Napa Auto Parts paint center, and they color matched to the white. So pretty much right, I basically got the color match right next to the molding. So
it actually was kind of an interesting thing for like Anthony and I, who both lived, I lived in Meridian, same kind of area as him at the time. They actually had this little like paint store. It was like a Napa branded paint store, but it didn't have the branding on the outside. It was like they were owned by Napa, but it was like it looked like an indie auto paint shop that just did this stuff. I don't know. We don't really have a lot of that kind of thing around here, so to see something that was actually like unique like that was cool. They carried a lot of stuff you could not find at the auto parts store, though. Like 2K clearance stuff they actually had in stock, which definitely harder to find outside of there unless you order it.
I know that this will match, and I'll shoot it with this, then hit it with the 2K clear. I think it's going to turn out pretty good.
Oh, I remember this copyright-free music. We've used it a billion times. Okay, G. Davis. Maybe it's the same kind of deal then. Dino, yes, we are going to Auto Mechanica.
All right, time to spray some.
Anthony will not be there. However, Levi and my dad and I will. So, Anthony's not going because he's got a kid now. So he's looking after family stuff, and apart from our trip to the UK, that was pretty much going to be the extent of our travels, including him, at least for this year. But for next year, I would say things might be a little more open. He just really doesn't want to miss anything when it comes to his daughter's first year, growing up and all that. I totally get it. Totally understand, because a lot of those firsts are happening, during this year, whereas next year, maybe it starts to become a little more calm.
Some color here. Do a quick little test spot. Looks white. So I'm going to go ahead, first coat.
G. David, yes. Anthony's waiting for a return to Paramus. Based on how things are going this year, we're probably not going to the East Coast this year for a Paramus type thing, but I would say there's a good chance it'll happen next year. So don't rule it off entirely. I think that next year is probably a good chance we'll go back to doing something over at Phil's place, over at Domain and all that. So that'd be cool. What else? Got fatherhood is overrated. I hear you, G. I've been putting it off this long, so so far so good. But I get it. For somebody in his position, I totally understand it. So I can't fault him for that. What else? While I don't enjoy the amount of people living in a major city suburb area, having access to a lot of small things like paint stores and such is great. Agreed. Totally agreed. Dino, what do you mean by all the days? I think we're going there for every day the show is going. We're going to be there for a good, amount of time. From what I understand, we're going to have a pretty cool car in the booth too. Because I think we're sharing a spot with Color Lock. G. Davis,
right, guys, so
keep doing what you're doing, Dan. You'll be happier. Well, thanks.
The color finally started to come through. So after the first couple sprays, it didn't quite look right. It was a little blotchy, but after that third coat, it really filled in and looked like it should. So color looks spot on. Super happy with that. Now I can't wait to shoot it with clear, because that's where we're going to get all of the gloss. All right, guys, and here is the final result after the third coat of 2K Clear, and they look fantastic. Lots of gloss, minimal orange peel. My goal is to not have to sand these and have to finish them out. I'd like to
based on the paint I saw on Luke's finish, this has way less orange peel than Luke's car does.
Basically, the second coat looked pretty good. Then once they threw in the third
coat,
okay,
really Dino, I understand. Yeah, as far as I know, we're going to be there the whole show.
There were moldings. Not
unless I misunderstood something.
So, anyways, that's good. I'm going to let them probably cure for a couple days because I have to press these into the door. I don't want to leave any thumbprints if the clear is too soft. So I'm going to let them cure out for probably 2 days or so, let them bake out in the sun, and then I'll be able to install them in the car. All right, so the side molding.
Dino, you're saying, do you guys watch M539 restorations? I'm not familiar with M539 restorations. Do you have like a link you could share to like a good example of one of their videos or something? I'm assuming it's somebody who makes videos. Because I'm familiar with like Contempo Concept. I know we've looked at some of their videos and they're really cool. They have like an S2000 where they do like a crazy full restoration. I mean, their stuff is incredibly thorough. I would recommend that channel to anybody who's like interested in detailing but wants something that frankly takes it to like its psychotic extreme. Like it really, it goes far. But very cool. I think I saw some stuff with like an NSX on there as well. Some different things like that.
Things turned out pretty dang good if I say so myself. But now it was time for the big job. So let's 600, which I think will give me enough
sanding,
for the
my
primer.
favorite.
I might go down to like a 400 maybe. We'll kind of see. But I'm pretty much down.
Apologies for the sound of the fan in the background of his video, not actually
so
here. It is excruciating.
Bondo to bring for their base.
It just really picks up on that mic for some reason.
As good as
I give him crap, but the reality is he's quite good at this stuff. You know, for just being a guy rattle canning, he really does a good job keeping it even. I always feel like he gets the can a little too close to the surface, but it turns out, whereas when I do it, it's garbage. Weirdly, in another life, I was actually really, really interested in woodworking and like making furniture and stuff. And there was a part of me that actually wanted to to like just be a guy who makes like chairs and tables and like cool furniture, like a mixture of upholstery, but also like the actual construction of wooden objects. I don't know. Excuse me,
guys,
frog in my
so
throat.
I am well on my way for the All Day Anthony famous rattle can paint job. So as you can see, I have the side skirts laid out, front lip over here, bumper and grill. Everything's been masked off. I've gone ahead and done the primer so far, so 3 coats total. I think it'll be good enough. I'm not too focused on painting the areas underneath, like the side skirts, for example, so much the bottom of the lip, but I want to get everything that you're going to be able to see, and I still want to do a good job. It's just, holy crap, I forget how much paint you actually end up using. I went through 2.5 cans of...
It was funny when he was shooting these. People would like walk over into the warehouse and then go look and be like, oh, and just turn around and leave. Like, okay, you look like you've set up a Dexter murder scene over in the back corner there.
The primer so far, I'm going to hit it just a little bit more, just kind of making an even 3.
That's right, G. Davis. You never know what you're going to find. What is that drop shadow, dude? Got more footage of his hand moving than I do of the actual spray hitting the object.
Got some T-Bell, Crunchwrap Supreme, Color's done. It's white. Pretty close. I was really cutting the.
Wouldn't that suck if you're just sitting there and then suddenly a tomato pops out of that Crunchwrap Supreme and smears across your fresh paint?
I think it'll all start coming together.
I think that's a little bit of nightmare fuel for Anthony, although he managed to dodge that bullet.
Perfect. It's not 100%.
I mean, I realize for some of you guys, we're watching paint dry, so it's not the most exciting thing in the world.
It's an eBay grill.
But he did a good job with this.
Color matched, spray painted, have a rattle can, and I don't think you can ask for much better. And so,
Dino, that sounds really cool though.
And then the other
on the old
thing,
BMW
right?
V12, V10, V8. Okay,
First time ever painting a bumper with rattle cans, and even this turned out awesome. Masked everything off here because one of my biggest pet peeves in the Honda world is when people don't mask off these little vent-shaped things. Or the grill
I have seen a few grills like that where the people just literally just painted right over the actual little grill inlet. It does not look good. Like, it really makes a difference if you separate them out. You really ought to do that.
So, masked everything off there, front and back, to prevent any overspray from getting back underneath. But this turned out pretty good. I used for this process. So this is not the prep stuff. This is just the painting portion here. So once everything was prepped, I went through with a solvent and wiped everything down with a microfiber towel. Once everything was wiped down, I was ready for my primer. So I used the SEM Flexible Primer Surfacer. It's got built-in flex agent.
See, this is one of those things where, like, I do have a lot of patience, but when it comes to projects like this, I have a lot less patience. Something about it just I find so annoying.
And adhesion promoter in there. Laid this down. Once I did 3 coats of that.
Oh, nice, Dino. I will have to check that channel out then.
Seeded off any rough spots and got it perfectly level. And then after everything was level,
all right, let's skip to the end here.
Tacked everything
Get some after shots. Come on, where are they?
More solvent. I can't remember, but I did tack everything down, and then I started adding my color. And use that, but you don't get it in.
Are you telling me he did all this and then he didn't show it at the end?
Pretty rough. Heading
really?
For that. Just wait, because I'm gonna have the wheel and tire install video coming next.
Well, that's annoying. Okay. Anyway, that CRZ he has is cool, but it's not long for this world. As a matter of fact, it's probably gonna be for sale very soon. So I don't think I'm letting anybody know anything that they probably couldn't have guessed, but yeah, it's gonna be out there because making room for some new fun stuff, which not a huge secret either, but you could probably figure it out. Yeah, he saved it for the reveal video. Yeah, so I'll just, you know, to humor anybody who was watching, let's this be all right. That's me in his garage. Okay, so
what's up, guys? It's all the Anthony.
Every
Welcome
time.
Back to the Civic vlog that you hopefully
What's up,
know
guys?
And hopefully love, because in today's video, our budget Civic build is complete.
Come take my hand. I'll lead
Groovy.
you in the dark. We'll dance among the stars. I hope you know.
Vibes. I remember he was pretty proud of this intro. Yoshi, you're probably right. He'd probably be super embarrassed to know I'm watching his stuff on stream right now. You can see it though. The white, you can tell, doesn't quite match, but it's close enough. And most importantly, the finish on it is good.
All right, guys, so back to where it all began. This exact spot, 3 months in a total of 3.
Definitely a strong difference. No, that car, for like what he picked it up for, that was an awesome way to turn it around. And yeah, no, it so Yoshi, the YouTuber face thing, that was one of the reasons why, like, somebody was asking about our YouTube channels and podcasts we like to listen to and watch and stuff. I wasn't really going to go into detail over on the Q&A because I felt like, or some people get stuck on a tangent or whatever. And I noticed, like, Anthony kind of found like he wasn't totally agreeing with me, where I was like, I like, you know, Matt Farah over the Smoking Tire and stuff. Like, yeah, sometimes he can sound a little out of touch when he's talking about stuff just because he's somebody who, like, casually has conversations with, like, Spike Ferenstein and Jerry Seinfeld and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, I find his knowledge base when it comes to the automotive world, really, it's helpful if you're looking for getting the temperature of the landscape. You can find usually what's going on just by listening to him. He's on the ball with a lot of stuff. Like, most things, he's not caught off guard by much. So it's always interesting to hear. But yeah, he talked about, like, the metrics when it came to how the YouTube channel was performing for the Smoking Tire versus, you know, how he'd been doing things before. I think a lot of his following he developed back in the days when he was doing one takes that involved him driving, like, strangers' cars, which there's a certain element of danger to that. But I mean, Regular Car Reviews does it all the time, and he's okay. Although I remember he had one particular video with, like, a Subaru Brat or something where it, like, nearly killed him. But in Matt Farah's case, he just finds that he's more, you know, in tune with doing podcasts and stuff. And frankly, like, I don't want to call it a lazy approach, but it's like the more efficient approach to doing what he wants to do and being able to talk about cars and involve himself in the car scene without having to constantly do the legwork of going out and shooting a video that may or may not get any views. But yeah, no, on one of his most recent podcast, he and Zach were talking about how I guess, like, company that does social media research or something, they like paid for a survey or some kind of research study by someone who would do that for him, and they basically found, like, certain metrics, specifically the YouTuber face thing. Like, he makes fun of it and he's really jaded about it, but at the same time he also understands, like, oh no, that's what pays the bills, so it sucks. But he explained very dryly that, yeah, if you want stuff to succeed, you got to do some of these things. And they rightly brought up that, you know, at a certain point, if you have to fit this formula of, like, what people are looking for before they click on a thumbnail, it has to have these certain things. At what point does the thumbnail become less important than, you know, what it is you're doing? Like, if you're just fitting this constant formula, the actual work itself becomes secondary. It's frustrating because then you just kind of fit into this homogenized bullshit of doing what everybody else is doing, trying to get the views, and, you know, your content that you actually work on, frustratingly, gets, you know, overlooked if your thumbnail doesn't cut it. And that's a constant source of frustration, constant pain point for us over at TRC who are making the videos, and I'm doing a lot of our thumbnails. Like, most of the thumbnails are me. And yeah, some I feel like I do a better job than others. It just depends on the subject matter. But, like, a lot of times, like, Anthony and Jimmy in particular are super superstitious about what'll work, you know, to please the YouTube gods and the algorithm and get people to click on stuff. And I find, like, I'm batting a little higher than 500 with their suggestions, but it really, really depends. Like, your thumbnail is important, certainly, but, like, your title and your description, all these things, it's a combination of everything. And you can have all that and have it be enticing, but if the actual video itself isn't engaging within, like, the first 10 seconds, you're also shit out of luck. So it's a pretty cutthroat kind of world out there. And if you're doing it purely to succeed and go viral and have the most views and everything, you're going to be frustrated unless you're chasing the constant trends and doing that kind of thing. If you just do it for yourself and you try not to think about those other things, it'll be a much more pleasant experience. But being that we are, you know, when I'm doing that stuff, we are a company doing that, there's a certain expectation that what you'll do will yield some kind of result. People will see it and be interested in going and buying a product or doing something like that. So yeah, I mean, we're every bit as real as we are in real life when we're doing those things. But at the same time, we also have to think about, God damn it, this is so frustrating. Okay, put the YouTuber face in there. Let's just do that. And I'll throw stuff out there like that, and they'll think it's cringe. And I know, but it does work. It does help sometimes. So it's frustrating, but you know, that is kind of what it comes down to at times. Just to be able to get any kind of traction, it's frustrating. Okay, so G Dave was asking, is YouTube money significant for TRC? The YouTube money, if I'm being honest, it's a very, very, very small percentage of what we do over at TRC. It's a nice to have thing that basically can help us sometimes, you know, cover the cost of like, you know, doing like the Dane reviews kind of thing, where they'll take an equivalent to whatever the donations were, and they'll turn it into, okay, we're gonna buy everybody like a lunch and we're gonna have Dane review it or something. I've done that with the guys, but the actual amount we get in is very, very small. I mean, very, very small relative to, you know, the size of, you know, our operation, what we do. It's definitely not something you could live off of. So, yeah, outside of like big YouTubers, you're really not seeing something that could double as like a comfortable income. I wouldn't rely on that. We're at like 66,000 some odd subscribers, bordering on 67,000. You're just not making a lot. I mean, it's a pittance. Like, I don't want to knock it, because there are people out there who'd be like, that's a lot of money, but it's really not. In the grand scheme of things, compared to like what some of these bigger operations are doing, it's night and day. Because what I was talking about with the adpocalypse thing happening back in like 2017, 2018, 2019, when all that was kind of going down and people were kind of freaking out with advertisers on YouTube. Yeah. Yeah, most YouTubers rely on ad sales more than views for money. That's exactly right, Yoshi. So what I was going to point out was the ad rev that comes in on YouTube for like channels and stuff. It's like a nice little extra piggy bank for like a creator to be able to pull out of to do some stuff. But like even in Anthony's shoes, I don't know exactly what he's making off that, but I know it's not a lot. And he's got over 100,000 subscribers, and it doesn't matter. He's like 125,000 or so, but it's really not enough to, you couldn't live off that and do what he's doing. You still need to have a day job. Like 100,000 sounds exciting, but it's not paying the bills to any real extent, at least not anymore. It certainly used to, because 100,000 subscribers back in the days of like when, you know, Smoking Tire had it, or Regular Car Reviews had it, or a lot of these other channels had it. It's a different animal than it would have been today. Like, it was definitely different back then, where the ad rev paid more per click, all that kind of stuff. It was definitely more of a return for what it was you're putting out there. Now it's just not the case. It's difficult. But yeah, a lot of the creators out there who are doing YouTube videos, you notice pretty much anybody who has any kind of borderline success on YouTube is usually doing ads for like a VPN provider or some kind of random, you know, underwear company, or some whatever box of the month bullshit somebody's doing. There's always something. And the difference for us over at TRC, like what we're doing, is we are the company and we're creating the videos, but I think we have way more fun and are more loose with it than virtually everybody else we're competing with. So we are more like an indie creator than a lot of the other, you know, places I find. Like you'll find a lot of companies, they'll just like outsource the work to like a professional video production company and be like, make our video, we need a 30-second spot for whatever, and they'll just come and do it, and then they'll go on, and they have like no connection with the company. Whereas it was my goal from day one, as soon as I could at TRC, to be able to do something in-house and have it be like a real beating heart soul of what it is we do. Because I think a lot of the personality that people associate with the company comes through because of the videos we do. You're interested in buying a product because you want to support the people you saw in the videos. You like their personality. You feel like you relate to them in some way. And that's appealing. And you want to support people like that because, frankly, there's a lot of people who suck out there too. And you don't want to support them, but it just makes you appreciate the ones who don't suck. So that's kind of how I look at it. Is just something where it's... It's a constant source of frustration, but at the end of the day, I'm probably never going to look at what we do with the channel as like a source of income for the media department or anything. It really comes down to people actually buying products and actually putting their money where their mouth is. And frankly, I don't think we would have half the success we do if the products weren't actually good too. So that's why we're so comfortable, you know, plugging that stuff, talking about it and everything, because it's actually something we believe in because we used it ourselves and we can vouch for it. I'm not comfortable anytime we have something that's like untested and we have to, you know, put something out there. It's incredibly rare, and we vet stuff so carefully. You can't prevent every problem from happening. Like, even if there's a product you really like, it gets out there, certain people in a very particular environment have some kind of problem with it, whether it's like linting or dusting or whatever other thing people can have as a problem that's unique to their environment or their situation. And it becomes this whole kind of frustrating thing where you're like, it didn't happen for us. We weren't able to account for that. We tried, you know, spread the word when it comes to testing, but you can't account for everything. All you can do is hope for the best and, you know, do your due diligence to the degree that's reasonable. But at a certain point, you do just kind of have to go, okay, now it's up to people to give us the feedback. Sorry, going off on tangents there. Save it for the reveal video. I agree. Don't find myself watching his YouTube videos anymore, but I'll listen to all of his podcasts. Yeah. So, yeah, Yoshi, I think definitely the most fun videos to watch on his channel were the ones where he was driving somebody's like crazy homemade project car. There were some really cool ones out there. I think one of my favorites was, I'll just pull this up. Yeah, this thing was so cool sounding.
All right. Guys, you know what I love as much of... Thank you for joining me, Steve.
Thank you, Matt.
With the only Honda N600
This thing is so cool.
Really, I think ever.
I love showing people this video if they've never seen it before, because first of all, a lot of people aren't even familiar with the Honda N600, let alone this insane thing. It's got a friggin', I think it's the engine out of like a VFR. VFR motorcycle. So cool.
600.
This is a 72 N600, first car Honda ever imported to the United States, basically.
It's basically like a K car, kind of, isn't it? It's just tiny.
It is. This one's highly modified, so...
Yeah, Yoshi, that's exactly right. You need to have some kind of actual like business going on behind the scenes to account.
It's really very pretty and very purposeful. And so tell me about under the hood.
Under the hood, we have a 1998 VFR 800 V4 Interceptor motor.
It's still got the frickin' tank on it. That's hilarious.
And then sequential gearbox.
Still shifting the motorcycle's transmission.
Super cool. And what does the car weigh?
1,400 pounds, and it is actually now front and rear first-gen Miata suspension, now rear-wheel drive.
Wow.
Cool. So front engine, rear wheel. Is there a chain?
Nope, drive shaft.
It's a drive shaft.
Going to a 7.5-inch Ford rear end.
Cool. All right, how do we start it?
So, key on.
Uh-huh.
You're looking at the actual Honda
gauge cluster, VFR gauge
full
cluster.
gauge.
Yeah.
So you want clutch in and pull this back.
Done.
You'll notice a little silver button.
Sounds like a bike starting up.
Silver button.
Look underneath.
Underneath, yeah.
That's your full open exhaust. Right now,
All right,
you're
so this
closed
is
exhaust.
quiet. Okay, open. I press it or I
Push
pull
it
it?
in.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
All right, so we'll
I love
both.
this
I want to
thing.
hear both. Okay, so is this locked?
Yep.
See, this is the kind of car that totally appeals to me, but I feel like, once again, super niche. There's not a lot of people out there who'd be into this. I think it sounds amazing, though, when he's driving it.
I mean, am I in gear here?
You are in gear, otherwise you'd see a neutral
I see a
light.
neutral light,
So you're
okay.
probably in first gear when I park. There you go.
All right, and we're off. This is going to be so cool.
So cool. I love that.
And you have a 12,000
And like like Anthony was saying, you can tell with Matt, like when he's interested in something, he has a hard time faking interest. He doesn't really bother faking interest in anything. So it is fun to watch somebody who's actually having a good time, and that's why I like some of these old videos, because they're really good for that. Like this car itself is so cool.
Let's go windows up if we can so we can hear. We're gonna cook, but fuck it. Here we go.
Sounds like it's going a million miles an hour, but it's probably going all of 40, 50.
Clutch to shift once I'm moving. Dead bird. Do I need to use the clutch to upshift?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's paddle shifters with a clutch. Takes a little getting used to.
Exactly.
I'm just cruising around at 6,000 RPM right now. This is
And that's the
so
low
cool. How long did
RPM.
it take to build?
Took Dean about 5 years.
5 years.
5 years, jeez. I forgot that part. That part doesn't sound fun to me at all.
Suspension's all narrowed down.
Shockingly good.
Well, gee, I'm glad you were here. Thank you for watching with me. I really appreciate you taking the time. So thank you, and have a wonderful night. We'll just keep this train rolling, I guess, for a little bit longer. I mean, I'm 3 hours and 7 minutes into it, but I'm having a good time. I think probably in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to think about getting myself some dinner, so may dip out for that. But afterwards, yeah, we can pick up where we left off, and I'll see if any of you guys are still around. If you are, feel free to dip back in. It's fun. I'm having a good time. I hope you guys are too. This is literally first stream, so I'm just, trying to figure stuff out. But if you could give me a follow, I'd really appreciate it if you haven't done it already, so you get notified when I go live again, which will probably be later tonight. And given how things will go this week, maybe I'll hop on a few times after work this week too. I think that'd be fun.
Basically.
What are the brakes?
Miata brake.
Miata brakes.
Yep. Full suspension and
I'm getting the hang of it.
you'll get there.
A lot of brake pedal pressure you need. Trying to figure out
That
if you
downshift
can
is
use the
nuts.
heel towing with a paddle shifter. That's different. Listen to that.
It's so ridiculous sounding.
And that was only 9,000.
I know, 9K. And it's rear wheel drive. It's amazing. What's the wheelbase? Like 90? 87?
Small.
How much power does this engine make?
Only about 115 horsepower.
On 115.
Right.
Yeah.
About 1,400 pounds.
Yeah. This is amazing. There's so much power, man. You do the whole road in third gear.
Yep.
Let me see if I can find that. Let's see. Yeah, I think it was in this podcast.
Z06 pricing, is that why you want to pull?
I have some random news things pulled up, and then we have.
I also
questions.
want to make everybody. Yeah. Zach and I have a company. It's a small company that does some of our social media, because Zach and I are all on the road. We're doing things we can't.
Now this is some really this is some really kind of inside baseball stuff, so I hope you guys aren't totally bored by this, but this is one of the reasons that I do enjoy listening to Matt Ferris podcast from time to time, because I find this kind of stuff just fascinating. So get a load of some of these stats he puts out there in case you missed this stuff from before.
Our posts and stuff with the kind of regularity that we want to from the road. So we hired a company to do it. It's been 6 months, and so they delivered us a report: what works, what doesn't work, what we should do in the future. And I wanted to, when we had the call going through the report, I got very depressed.
You did.
And for those of you who are still watching and stuff right now, sorry, I'm going to go find myself like a lozenge or something, because the back of my throat is just really scratchy right now for some reason. But yeah, no, if I let this play, I'm just going to go ahead and walk away for a second, take care of this. But yeah, What was I thinking? Oh yeah, just go ahead and watch this. I'll be back in just a minute. But go ahead and throw some questions out here and stuff too. If you guys want to talk about some other things, look at some other videos, feel free to send me suggestions like links to videos and stuff. I'd be down to watch some stuff. But yeah, just let me know. Be right back.
Because as we have learned in the past with the YouTuber face and the thumbnails and stuff like that, the things that I like using social media for and feel good about using social media for are not what you people want. They're not what you people engage with. And if you're out there about to listen to this and you go, Matt's not talking about me, fine. I'm not trying to like, we're all stupid monkeys. Like, we're all programmable. We're all susceptible to trends and to the strategies that make things work on social media. And if you think it doesn't apply to you, chances are you're wrong, but it's okay. You don't need to write me a note saying that it doesn't apply to you, because we're talking about tens or hundreds of thousands of people aggregated. We're not talking about how one person feels about it, or even 50 or 100 people. If I got 100 emails saying, no, don't do that, it's not me, it's like, well, this got 518,000 views. 100 is a rounding error. It's like, even if all of them speak up, and that's why you should never read the comments and should always pay attention to the data. So some of the takeaways from our the clips with the most reach on Instagram from the podcast. Is it safe to buy a GT3 RS? How fast is a Porsche 911 Turbo S really? Comparing the Turbo S, other things. Calling out the wealthy YouTubers out there. Shitting on the Omega Swatch collab, the Moon Swatch, and asking questions. Is Elon Musk really a genius or just a good marketer?
And these are all video clips.
These were video clips, right. So the takeaways are that almost all drivers of New Traffic are reels from the podcast, as opposed to teasers for car review videos. Porsche keywords in the thumbnails work exceptionally well, as do financial advice, giving financial advice about investing in cars or talking about rich people and money.
Should rich people invest in a new Ford Lightning? I'm going to make that center card today.
Well, the golden combination, according to our study of our social media, is the intersection of financial advice and the word Porsche. People come to us to learn if they should invest in a Porsche. That is the number one reason that people engage with our content.
Is it time to invest in a 911 that you can tow with a Ford Lightning? Okay.
Right. In terms of Instagram engagement, still post interactions are down 38%. No, Instagram has stopped feeding people still images. They're trying to be TikTok.
100%, yes.
If you click on someone's profile, you may notice on Instagram, if you see a post and you go, oh, let me check out that person's profile, and you click, it takes you to their reels. It doesn't even take you to their static
That was an
feed
interesting
anymore.
thing I didn't know.
So, and no one's looking at stories. Still post interactions down 38%. This is in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Story interactions down 24%. Reel interactions up 90%, and video interactions are up 48%.
That's because, Instagram's actually like boosting that stuff intentionally on purpose because they're so freaked out by TikTok. Which, by the way, like, how many of you guys actually use TikTok like regularly? Are you addicted to it, or have you like managed to avoid it entirely? Because I feel like I've got the app, but I never find myself going on there unless somebody from work like sent me something that specifically was on there. But when you look at it, like Instagram and even YouTube with their shorts and stuff, it's pretty shameless ripoffs of TikTok at this point. I don't know, any of you addicted to it, or is it more of just something that you manage to avoid? And actually, sorry, I realize some of this stuff can be a little on the boring side, but I just wanted to kind of touch on that briefly. There's the Signet again. Let's see, what... Hop on our music again. There we go. Oh, this is another one. You ever watch the channel Mustard? They're really cool too. Do some awesome animations and stuff, but for anybody who's like, you know, like me, just really nerdy about boats and cars and planes and stuff, got some awesome ones. Definitely take their time to make these things though, because you look at how long it takes, probably a couple months each time. 3 months between these two. All right. I am not seeing any more comments, guys. I see you there. Refresh the chat here. Okay. Little conic wheels. Let's see. Excuse me. Yeah. Over there, let's see. I feel like refreshing this and looking at some stuff though. Like I'm looking for the truly oddball car. Like if I type in, let's just say for example, if I type in JDM, what do we get? Try some places in like Seattle or something. Not a lot. Okay, we got a Hilux Surf here, which for all intents and purposes is just a 4Runner, but 4Runner with a diesel. What? 20 grand for 300ZX? What's going on here? 100,000 miles? Okay. This looks like the 2+2. Does that have back seats? Yes, it does. Okay, yep. Yep. Interesting. Well, it's got the manual. Okay. Dino, do this video, but from 11 minutes. Okay. Why don't we do that? Pop it up on the screen.
Coming up.
Oof. Okay, I was gonna say, are these like in German or are they English speaking or? Okay, pop that. Do that for right now. Okay, I realized when I muted that, I actually muted YouTube. Let's just go ahead and pause that for a while I go here.
Coming up, we drive.
Yeah, buddy.
I mean fly.
3:30.
Some mechanical work.
Now it's time for boob job.
And we have a hot pursuit.
Hey, did you steal my sausages?
Okay. I have not seen this channel before.
Get a load of that. E24 with 12-cylinder engine. Same spec as Project Marseille. The one and only Batmobile. What a phenomenal book. A guy in snow with mustaches driving the 8 Series. Those
I
are
mean,
real
that's
men.
very early 90s German.
Aloha and welcome to the kingdom. A kingdom of broken BMWs. Well, at least they
Isn't that most kingdoms?
Then they
At
become
least the ones that have
less
BMWs.
broken, and eventually graduate to not broken at all, but always ready to strike your wallet. This is part 6 of Project Raleigh, and in this episode we continue sprucing up. We need a third, and then proceed and do some important scientific stress testing. So buckle up.
I mean, between an E60 and an E39,
So this
he's
is
got
the
a great
toolkit
combo
of
there. Those are
Project
definitely
Raleigh, and as you can see, it's
two ones you want. Although I really
Screwdriver's
like,
missing, triangle, and the
I
first
really
aid
like
kit.
the
Also,
earlier
this
ones.
doesn't make sense to me. These are two
Like
original
a 34.
scanners. They have BMW stamped on them, but they don't fit here. It says 13 and 10 there.
So, since I'm not like a BMW expert, I just know this stuff off the top of my head. Do they all, like at least the late 80s, early 90s ones through the 2000s, they all come with this toolkit here? Because I feel like pretty much every single one I've seen of a 3 or 5 series, possibly a 7 series, has this kit in it, in the trunk. Just felt like they all had that. My Z3 that I had did not have that, but that was the Z3. So I think that was common amongst the sedans at least.
But it's 13 and 12, and this one is 10 and 8. So that's all sorts of wrong. So I bought a used one. Came with screwdriver, tow hook, the bag for the first aid kit, or as French would say, trousseau de secours. Anyway, I think we're gonna remove this one, because here, see these small things? They actually fit. And then I bought a brand new triangle that fits like that. So this is complete. We need to swap it. How does this come apart? Oh, they're hidden screws. Look at that. Easy as that. In you go. Then this thing should go here.
So Dino, is this guy? This guy's based in Germany, right?
2008. Expired. I have a brand
I
new
didn't
one
look
here.
at the license
So I'm just
plates
gonna
or
open it
anything,
up
but
and transfer it into
guessing
the
because he's
bag.
able to drive them on the Autobahn.
All right, that's all nicely packed. There you go. Perfection. I also carry in all of my cars a small
All right,
fogging
we'll go
oil.
from 11 minutes on. We'll take your advice. Oh, he's in Frankfurt. Okay.
Same torque walios in front. Brake pad wear sensor.
Now, are you guys fans of cross-drilled rotors? Because I normally, I'll happily take like slotted rotors, but as my understanding, maybe it's just internet stuff, you know how people on forums get, but cross-drilled rotors, at least cross-drilled and slotted rotors, don't those tend to have more issues? Like those are the ones that you get the cracking and you get potential like rust spots and stuff that happen that aren't happening on just the slotted or on plain face ones. I'm asking because I really don't remember off the top of my head if that's the case. I just know when I got them for my Jag, I avoided the cross-drilled ones because I thought I'd read some horror stories from people online. I was like, I don't want to have that. So I just got slotted, but not cross-drilled. Also because most people buying them are buying them for the look and not necessarily for the performance benefits, and they just don't necessarily need to be on what's essentially a basic daily driver that's not going to be driven on the track.
Finito. Well, good job, Sretton. All right, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's what I was thinking. Thanks for
Torque
pointing that
time.
out. Yeah, stay away from drilled and slotted. It's literally just less braking surface area. Yeah,
And with that, let's go for a drive.
mine are slotted, but I find that that works for cooling, but it's not like I'm doing heavy runs all the time in the Jag. It's just something I like to do, you know, because I've got a mountain road literally 5 minutes from my house here.
Scheiße! Nein, das ist reverse. Ja, Zentrale. Zentrale! Was? I'm in the hot pursuit. Roger. For the millionth time, my name is not Roger. The bastard stole chain of sausages and the beer. Egal.
I was to say, this is striking me as less German and more French parody at this point. Can't deny that the V10 sounds good,
He
though.
stole my sausages?
Where is he that he's just doing this?
Oh, warte! Zentrale! I found the sausages. They were on my neck. And beer? Eigentlich in my belly. Drank it before me nap. Cancel the pursuit. Heading back for...
Okay, maybe it's just because I'm American, but when I look at that small of a bottle of beer and it has that kind of like... that kind of like brute kind of a champagne bottle cap on it. Normally I only associate that with big bottles, like a full wine bottle type thing. At most, if I had like, even Hogarden just comes with like a regular cap on it. I'm trying to think of the last time I had anything. Stefano. Trying to think of what beer I had. I did have something that was German from the store that did have that cap, but not a common thing, especially over here for such a small bottle.
Cancel the pursuit. Heading back.
Okay, the fact you tossed that means it's gonna blow up now.
Scheiße, Hans. You idiot. We need more comfy chairs. Here we go. Beautiful German Autobahn. Why does this car smell like sausages? Mash the pedal.
On do you pronounce your name Ukudalo or UCU Dalo? I'm wondering if I'm saying that right. Dane, you ever search Craigslist cars using the keyword rare and then sort by price low to high? Yes, I have done that. I have also searched terms like you always want to type in lowballers just to see what like cheap car comes around, because there's somebody who's obviously pricing their vehicle way too high and they're saying no lowballers. That's a fun one. Rare is a common one because a lot of people use the word rare. Unique kind of gets some, but not as many. Classic gets you a lot of the generic things you'd expect, along with some things that people think are classics that frankly don't deserve the label. But no, rare I enjoy. I've searched by that and just look to see what's out there. And yeah, Yoshi, that's exactly how I understood it. Was slotted rotors are fine. It's just the cross drill that are the problem, because they literally like reduce the structural integrity of the actual disc. And they're just more prone to cracking due to like heat transfer or something. I don't remember exactly what the cause
Sweet
is.
papaya, this thing is fast. Already doing 270. Slow down for the corner.
Yeah, Yoshi, your 93 Accord is a rare, unique classic in the same way that, well... Okay, I know 100 kilometers an hour is 62 miles per hour, but I can never remember what 300 kilometers an hour is. So we want to do the quick math on that. Okay, 186. Basically the... yeah, alright.
Switching to the left lane. Past 300 now.
Getting up to 190.
The sensation of this car getting up to speed.
330 is 200. Okay,
It's
that's what I was trying to
ridiculous.
remember. Nice.
I haven't felt anything like it. What a machine you are, to quote Mr. Clarkson. There are many joys in life, but manually shifting a V10 engine, that is something special.
I mean, the V10 that they put... what was the engine code for the V10 that they put into the E60 M5 and the M6. What was the engine code for that? It was like S... It's like in the F5, it's like S55 or something like that. S85. Okay, thank you, Yoshi. I knew you'd know.
This is not a car, this is a rocket. All right.
It's funny though, even when you get this kind of perspective and you know he's hauling ass, it still looks so composed that it doesn't really feel like it's going as fast as it is. And that's the hard part about like shooting car videos and stuff, like just speaking from experience. It's really hard to make a car look like it's going as fast as it actually is, because the experience when you're actually behind the wheel and in the seat, there's so much more going on that's not really being conveyed through a camera. That I mean, you got vibration, you got the wind noise, you got the other things that may be kind of muddled on the audio from a regular camera, but yeah, something about it, just very different experience. The twitchiness and maybe coming through the steering wheel, although to their credit, like as shitty as a lot of the parts in BMWs can be to like replace all the nickel and dimey like small stuff, they do feel very solid and put together in that Autobahn style environment, like more than a lot of other cars that fall into a similar price point when they were new. Yeah, they hold up in a way others don't. However, the electronics and all that crap are gonna fall by the wayside eventually, and make you very sad and very poor.
Right, you know the drill. It's Sunday evening.
He did the rod bearing. Okay.
And I'm going on a stretch of road.
He did it
that
by
I know
himself.
really well. And we are going to attempt and max out the E60 M5. According to the spec sheet, this thing can do around 330 kilometers per hour. The speedo does lie a little bit, but that doesn't matter. We just need to use the whole speedo. And I read somewhere that E60 M5 with the manual gearbox, because of different gear ratios or whatever, it has a bit lower top speed than the one with the SMG. But let's find out. I'm gonna take it.
Well, if I recall correctly, the manual for the M5 of the E60 generation was actually a result of like Americans wanting the manual, which they never gave us the estate, so we never got an M5 Touring, but we did get the manual where I think Europe was just limited to the SMG, or if they weren't, they had really, really, really small numbers of non-manual sold there. I don't remember what the case was.
Well, I was gonna say easily, but safely seems more appropriate.
That's cool,
if the
Dino.
road feels safe, if the car feels safe, I'm gonna push it. If not, I'm gonna back out. Simple as that. That being said, the stretch of road that I'm using, it's really good. I know it well, and it's perfectly suitable for such high-speed driving. And it is legal as well, of course. This is German Autobahn after all. We're in the M mode. The suspension is tightened. Throttle response sharper. The engine is giving me all of its 507 horses. So let's see how it goes on.
There was like a period during the, I want to say like the late 90s into the mid 2000s, even into the late 2000s, the first decade, where if you had like a button that did any kind of sport suspension stuff on a car, if you had a car that had that feature where it was like an adaptive suspension or something along those lines, if it made any kind of improvement for sportiness, it had way more of an effect on the ride quality than it did on any sort of actual sportiness. Like more often than not, it just made your entire experience driving it more bone chattery without a whole lot of performance benefit. And I would say I find I actually like the comfort settings in cars more. Maybe it's just me showing my age at this point. I don't know. But I find I actually prefer in a lot of cars softer suspension. And the other things can be sporty, but I don't want to have the suspension that's literally like teeth-chatteringly, bone-jarringly brutal. Like, I just don't see the benefit to it. Like, if ridden in a Ford Focus RS, even the stock suspension on those, it's gnarly. I wouldn't recommend it as a daily just because of that, unless you were to change it out into something that you could at least adapt to be a little bit softer. Now, somebody's going to be like, oh, you puss out. Why'd you do that? There's just not enough of a benefit in a daily driver scenario to really appreciate that. I don't want to have to do that on my daily commute, you know? Like, I get the appeal of having a car that's actually relatively friendly, you know, to your back and your joints and all that stuff. And yeah, I guess it's just kind of an old man thing at this point, but that's just where I'm at. Still love sporty cars, don't get me wrong.
Retorqued all of the wheels. I've put a few hundred kilometers on this car, and so far everything feels good.
But I definitely have more of an appreciation for the old man mindset at this point.
I'm driving somewhat moderately on the Autobahn with speed limits, city driving, so not always flat out, but sometimes I'm getting around 18 liters.
Yeah, Yoshi, that's a good call. The Olin's, pricey. At least in my experience. But Olin's are dope. That's a nice way to do that. Is that what you have in your 3 Series?
Then it's around 25 liters. It's hopeless. And last time I got a bit over 300 kilometers before the fuel reserve light went on. Usually with the E39 M5, I'm getting around 440, 430, 450 kilometers before the fuel reserve goes on. And that's driving it flat out on the Autobahn. So that car, when it comes to fuel consumption, it's much better than the V10 version, but it kind of makes sense. It's a bigger engine, it's a V10, it's a higher revving engine. So also I'm gonna try and not redline it. There's no need to stretch the engine. I'm gonna shift a bit before the red line. I'm not on the racetrack, I'm not racing against anyone. All right, let's see.
That's such a good noise though. Dino, had an Opel Astra OPC with sport button and adaptive suspension. When you push that sport, it feels like you have fixed suspension. Now, when you say fixed suspension, you mean like static, like really, really firm fixed, like it has no travel? Or do you mean fixed as in it normally feels broken and then now it feels fixed? I know it's kind of seen as like a car driven by chavs and stuff in the UK, but I thought the Opel Astra was actually a cool looking little car for what it was. I mean, it's a GM product, and I come from a family who owned a lot of GM products back in the day, so I know how not great they can be, but you know, there's something lovable about them anyway, you know? When we got, you know, the Opel Astra here in the States, it came in the form of the Saturn Astra. The same car though, it's just badge engineering.
Lanes, no way.
Firm like as a rock. Okay, so it really just felt like it didn't have much travel at all.
320.
Which is fine if you're autocrossing or you're, you know, out there trying to take corners like a boss and you want that for a limited time only. But if that is your standard suspension and you're just stuck in it and that's your only option, forget that. I'm not doing that. On an Austrian highway that is smooth, you feel like you're on some vibrating jumpy massage chair. Yeah, no thanks. That sounds like it sucks. Also, like, for as many benefits as you get in terms of handling, like at lower to mid-speed stuff with a stiff suspension, when you reach a certain point and you get to certain speeds, an incredibly stiff suspension stops feeling like such a, you know, cool sporty thing, and it starts to feel downright dangerous and twitchy and spooky. At least depending on like how all of the suspension is arranged, like depending on your geometry, it can really feel sketchy if you don't account for, yeah, like your camber, you know, all that stuff. If all you're doing is like lowering or raising and not accounting for the other parts of it, it's definitely it's definitely something that can get a little spooky.
I'm letting off.
Sorry, I went into background mode, but yes, Olin's on the BMWs. Okay, cool. No, that's really nice.
Very, very stable. Man, this thing goes. I didn't even look where the revs were. I was concentrating so hard on the road up front. The engine can rev a bit more, but M5 equipped with SMG transmission has 7 gears and it would sit at 7,000.
You had an 06 and it understeered a lot. I mean, yeah, it's a front wheel drive car. Honda and like Seat, trying to think of who else. Skoda, some of those companies have really done a good job of making like a front wheel drive car feel much more neutral, but honestly, most of the cars that are for sale to the general public for like a sporty version of an otherwise like economical car, econo car, they're gonna understeer a lot, even the sportier ones, unless you have like a really nice limited slip diff or something up front, because they're just tuned to be more user friendly. They're designed to keep people, you know, they're to protect them from themselves, like a Renault Megane. Yeah, yeah, I remember the Renault Megane RS. It absolutely destroyed tons of things on the Nürburgring.
1,300 RPM at 330 kilometers per hour, while the manual sits, as you saw,
Whereas
at
like
8,000
Renault
RPM.
is
So it's safe to say that
unknown
the
these
SUV
days here in
version
the
has a higher top
States.
speed. It gets
But
up to
you go over to
300
Europe, they're
kilometers per hour,
everywhere.
So much quicker than the E39.
Same with
M5.
Peugeot.
E39, it pulls like crazy up until 280, then it starts.
But being a car nerd, at least I'm
a little bit.
somewhat familiar
It
with
needs
them.
more roads to achieve its top speed, but this thing, it just goes. It revs and revs and revs. The headlights, they're really good for stock headlights, and you can see adaptive thing doing its thing. The sound in this car, it's like nothing else.
Okay, so the V10 and the E60 M5 and the M6 from that generation sounds good. Sounds very good. But the Lexus LFA. Let's talk about V10s. Let's just do exhaust flyby. Why did I say FLA? Yeah. Oh, so good. I really like those wheels too. Like the LFA from a design standpoint, I'll be honest, it never really excited me that much. I always felt like the shape was kind of... It's super car-y in its own way, but it is a little more difficult to make like a front engine rear wheel drive car feel and look super car-y. And yeah, they were overpriced in the day, but only overpriced in the sense that people didn't feel like paying for them, and they had that weird leasing program they were doing. But overpriced in terms of the experience, I think because of the amount of carbon fiber development and all the stuff that Toyota did for these, it was so crazy how they basically just clean slated it and started again, developing the car with totally different material set when they started again. It was insane. Do you know who was in charge of sound and cabin and outside? Yeah, it was Yamaha, right? I mean, Yamaha's no joke. I have a Yamaha trumpet just in the other room over there. I haven't played since I was in high school, but yeah, Yamaha knows their shit. I mean, Yamaha's also responsible for, say, like the V6 and the Ford Taurus SHO, and also had some... They also had some involvement with the Toyota 2000 GT, if I recall correctly. That was like one of the earliest kind of cross-pollinations. But man, if there's one thing the LFA does good, it's the sound. I'm impressed with somebody actually caning an F355 in front of him, and a Spider no less. Granted, he's a lot faster than him, but yeah, good stuff. Whoa. That 964 was looking twitchy there. Okay, so that was fun. But let's see. I want to... Oh. Kind of the right thing? Yeah, okay, so... It's kind of a guilty pleasure thing. Spectator drags. Have you guys ever watched these? These are kind of fun. Like, usually, yeah, it's like this channel Carbon Video does them. Like, you're probably familiar with the concept if you have like a track in your town anywhere. There are places that'll do this. I mean, it's a huge liability on your part, but it is very fun to watch these things of people just like, you're taking a car that you probably shouldn't take out there, and your insurance sure as shit isn't going to cover it. And you're going to go out there and you're going to drive on this track and race against other people who have next to no regard for anything besides their own vehicle. Yeah, it gets sketchy. I mean, I'm going to be real judgy and say, think of the kinds of folks who enjoy going to these events on the regular, and then they want to get in their car and actually get down there and do it. You're definitely bound to have some people who don't mind trading a little pain. This one was released 7 days ago. Let's check it out. I realize this isn't going to appeal to everybody, but I think this will have some crossover appeal, because who doesn't love just watching some randos go at it on a track with their personal cars? Honestly, these guys with the pickup trucks are some of the smartest ones, because it's easier to fix the parts on them. Okay, I think this S10 is packing something that wasn't stock. Yeah, Dino, the V8 sounded the older S5 Audi. It revved it. Yeah, those sounded good. Actually, before I start this, we did a Wash Wednesday with a V8 S5. It was a friend of Anthony's, actually. Let me pull that up there. Yeah, it was a friend of Anthony's. Yeah, we did a Wash Wednesday of it way back when. I remember I had to come up with like this legalese at the beginning because I was worried people are gonna have a problem with it. I'm just always trying to be extra careful about that stuff.
My name's Anthony, and welcome to Wash Wednesday. Today we have Z. That's right. As in just the letter Z.
Just like Zorro.
All right, we got Z. What kind of car we got, man?
We have a 2008 Audi S5 in ice silver.
Oh, it's so funny looking back at this.
All right, so the car is dirty. It's an actual dirty car this time around.
So we're gonna skip ahead through the wash. I'm just gonna get to the part where they actually drive it. It made a nice sound though. He deleted the muffler on it.
Up and ready to roll. You ready to do this, man?
Absolutely.
All right, let's go.
I'm such a dork. I made him. I deliberately like filming this. I was like, you have to show that you're wearing a seatbelt. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so we are in the Audi S5 right now. We're on some country back roads. We got a little bit of time, a little bit of sunlight to do a couple pulls here. Yeah, dude, let's do it.
All right. Luckily, we got the roads to
The
ourselves.
DSLR didn't focus for shit.
Oh, man.
Made a good noise.
Dude, this thing's got some torque, man. Wow, that V8 though, right? Oh man, this thing, dude, this thing goes, man.
It's pretty awesome.
Dude, I don't know this Euro muscle, man. They're doing things right.
But I mean, we were doing about.
All right, popping that out. I'll check out your other video here before we move on to the spectator drags, though. Okay, yeah. These TTRSs with the inline 5, they are sick. Love it. They sound so good. Jeez, that turbo whistle. I feel like when we were visiting the Netherlands and we stopped in Germany for like 5 seconds, we must have been like right near this road. I feel like this is totally right next to where we were. Alright, let's see a haul. Is it gonna take off and turn, or is it gonna turn and then gun it? Kind of feels like it's short shifting it a little bit there. Ooh, got the pops. Oh, that's a good sound though. Man. Yeah, he's got all-wheel drive for those launches, which I definitely would think helps. 650 in my Jag just basically it just means a whole lot of wheel spin, even with fat tires out back. I mean, the Jag is somewhere between 38 and 4,100 pounds, but I mean, it still moves. That was going. Every time that 5-cylinder though just sounds so good. Anybody who's watching in here right now, please go ahead and keep leaving comments, your questions. I love having those. Keeps things interesting. And if you want to share some videos of your own that I can maybe pop into later, absolutely let me know. So many pops. It's just straight up gunshots. For all, you basically have a real baby R8 at that point. It's just your engine's in the wrong place. That was some good acceleration though. Alright, Yoshi, you're right. I was gonna go grab some dinner. So you know what? I think... Well, that's nice. Okay, what I'll do here is I am going to kick this over to my main front cam. Boom, there we go. Okay. Got the comments there. Great. Okay, so that's working. Excellent. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up for right now. We're just gonna take a little break, but I think I'll be back maybe in an hour or two. Depends on if I feel like going and actually finishing out the Forza Horizon 5 Hot Wheels expansion, so I can actually unlock some stuff there, because I know Anthony and Jimmy were wanting to play that. It'd be fun if I could set it up so I could actually like put it up on screen here. I know there's some stuff that'll allow me to share that, but the trouble is like I would still have the game system in the other room and then my streaming PC's here, so it's a little more challenging. But if I can figure something out for that, I may actually do some streaming of gameplay in the future. But barring that, I'll probably yeah, I'm gonna go get some food. It's like 6:45 right now, so yeah, after I go do that, I'll let you guys know if I'm coming back out here. I'll probably post it up on my Facebook for those of you who know me. Otherwise, just make sure you follow the channel here, and you'll probably see me go live sometime later tonight. And I probably won't be going for another 4 hours, but like maybe an hour or two at least, just something fun. And if there's a few of you who are out there, that's awesome. Otherwise, you'll probably see me maybe on an evening sometime later this week. Maybe get a few of those in. I think that'd be really fun. But I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who actually bothered to watch here. That was a lot of fun, and I really appreciated you guys taking time out of your day just to see what I'm doing, because it is fun. I like being able to interact with you guys in a space that's not work, you know. This is something it's just me, just doing my thing. So yeah, thanks for opening up a little time, just a little window into my life here. So thanks. With that said, I am going to kick it over to my thanks for watching slideshow, and I really appreciate everybody who spent time here. If you could go ahead and follow me on Twitch here, that would be best. But otherwise, yeah, just thanks for watching. So I'll catch up with you guys in a bit, hopefully, and I'll let you know then. So take care. Have a good one for now.